let's play Truth Bomb. First up today is my main man, the one and only film aficionado worth his weight in cursed Jew gold, Bazed Lit Analyzer.
What's up, Johnny? That was quite an intro. What's up, brother? What's going on?
Usual, man. You got this like lovely purple light that suits the old Truth Bomb. I like it. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. It's also hot as heck here,
Good.
so I've been out in the sun a lot. So hopefully it shows it's not shining off my forehead.
Oh, dude, I love heat. I'm a big fan of heat. So I hope you're ready for a challenging game today. There'll be some good New World Order film trivia to be had during this episode. It's custom made, of course, for the contestants. So to start off, tell me, I'll ask you a couple of questions. These ones don't necessarily have points attached, but do you know why it was obvious to doctors that Stanley Kubrick's balls had disco fever?
What was that? was that a question about IBM?
I said, do you know why it was obvious to doctors that Stanley Kubrick's balls had disco fever?
I don't know what that means.
It was because of all the shining.
Oh,
anyway, tell me, Bazed, in which part of the movie JFK by Oliver Stone did you ejaculate? You can tell the truth. It wasn't. Joe Pesci's eyebrows did nothing for you.
You talking about when Kevin Bacon said, "Well, you a good-looking man, Mr. Baze"? No.
No. I'm only playing it. I'm only playing. I'm being naughty. Anyway, you're going against one of the independent media legends who put out Loose Change. So tell me now, just in case, were you involved in planning, organization, or enacting of September 11th terrorist attacks?
No, I was in Belfast and I was about to turn 21 years old, but I am familiar with Bermas's work, of course, as everybody.
Well, you'll know if you're lying. He knows the truth,
Okay.
Okay. So, one last
He's like
question.
Santa Claus.
Right. Yeah, indeed. He does. He knows he's on the naughty list. So if Demi Moore injected herself with a strange fluid and you popped out of her back, do you think she'd be pleased?
Her face is melting, dude. Her eyeball is melting.
I know she looks more beautiful than she did when she was in G.I. Jane. That's all I'll say.
That was filmed here. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, taking on the one and only Bazed Lit Analyzer will be the one and only, the Lord Mayor of the indie media himself, Jason Bermas. Hello, sir.
How are we doing, sir? I'm looking forward to this one and having some fun. And honestly, I really don't have any expectations. I don't know how well I'm going to do. Obviously, I've discussed on my program the AI narrative again and again and again. I have, had to go into 3 or 4 prompts before you get any kind of real honesty out of Grok. So I think that this should be really interesting. And of course, I'm aware of Bazed Lit Analyzer. We've been doing some fun broadcasts over the past couple of years together. So again, really looking forward to this one, Vedmore.
I promise it'll be fun. I have to tell you, the prompts to organize for this episode, especially when it come down to anything to do with 9/11 or the war on terror, I ended up actually with about an hour-long argument with AI about conspiracy, about using the term conspiracy, and about making up crap. Like 50% of the answers were made up crap that they made up. So it's amazing. But Jason Bermas, you are, in my opinion, especially a shining light for journalists everywhere. Yeah. Before we start anything, can you tell me, was Bazed Lit Analyzer involved in planning, organization, or enacting the September the 11th? Go on, you can tell us.
I mean, we can't be sure.
If you say yes, you'll get a point.
And I'm certainly open to people presenting the forensic evidence that Mr. Analyzer was indeed involved. But I have yet to see that forensic evidence. And now he is in the clear as far as I'm concerned.
He is guilty, did you say?
In the clear, sir.
Then in that case, I will give a point to Bazed Lit Analyzer for being in the clear. So that's 1 point straight away. It's truly a pleasure to have you here. We've known each other many years, Jason. I'm so happy you could turn up. I think, to be perfectly honest, you say you have no expectations, but I think you could take the top spot because of your knowledge. And don't be afraid, both of you, don't be afraid to Truth Bomb in this episode. So let's do it. Let's play Truth Bomb. The Wall of Dystopia. The first round would be your run-of-the-mill true or false round if it wasn't for AI's constantly spinning evil lies. Sometimes it tells you the truth, and sometimes it steals straight out of your pocket and gives it to the drug lords and the CIA. It'll be our contestants' job to set the record straight if they think it needs to be, and also to guess what AI wants them to believe on behalf of their establishment masters. Remember, guys, don't be afraid, after you've answered what AI's official narrative is, to throw in that truth bomb and score as many points. Our top scorer at the moment is Rotting Jules. She's on 84. That's a bloody high score, with 78 next up, John Klyacek. So you need to score up. First up today is Bazed Lit Analyzer. Please, can you choose from the Wall of Dystopia? You have Glastonbury, Jesus was a Jew, which I think is a conspiracy theory, the War on Terror, the Fall of Bashar al-Assad, Charles Manson, what a nice chap he was, and Shakespeare. So what are you going to choose?
Okay, let's choose Shakespeare.
Shocking, because I would have supposed you chose Charles Manson, really. But anyway,
okay.
Let's do it. Let's do Shakespeare. Right. Based, your true and false round is on Shakespeare. This is quite a broad subject, though, my friend. Quite a broad subject indeed. I mean, he was a pretty famous man with Shakespeare. I think you studied a bit of Shakespeare, yeah?
Yeah, I've studied a bit of Shakespeare. Hopefully, I can read enough to do this. Okay.
Remember. Well, some of this is going to be about his life and the like. So remember to throw in a truth bomb whenever you think you have extra information or something which goes against the narrative or anything at all, even if it's a little bit of fun, because if it makes me laugh, I'll also give you a laughter point. You can earn all sorts of points in this. First one. Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon.
It's true. Stratford-upon-Avon. Truth bomb.
Go on. I love it.
Yeah. He was born on April 23rd, 1564, and died on April 23rd, 1616.
Oh, okay. I'm very tempted. To give you the truth bomb for that, except he was born and died on April 26th.
No, he was baptized April 26th. He was born April 23rd.
Oh, you beautiful man. Okay, well, I'll trust the AI has got that wrong, and that my own knowledge, because that does make sense. And I love the fact that you've even scuppered me, so you might even get an extra point there. Let's say you'll get 1 point for the answer, 1 point for the truth bomb, and 1 point for making me look like a cuck. So there you go. Well done. You're already on 4 points. You've only answered one question so far, so you're doing well. Okay. Shakespeare wrote 37 plays in his lifetime.
Yeah, he wrote 37 plays. Truth bomb. There's a 38th play, which is Two Noble Kinsmen, which was added on later and was co-written. But 37 plays are in the canon.
Yeah, so because I mean, some debate does exist about collaborations and stuff and extra work. That is true. 37 in the canon, and that's an extra good truth bomb point. Excellent. Okay, Shakespeare's wife was named Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, that's true.
True. Yeah, he's a true and false. Always pretty easy. Yeah, and take it you got nothing special on Anne Hathaway though, do you?
No, she was older. She was an older woman. That's about it.
I think she was. I get a feeling she was 18 when they married, and he was 24. I think
she was older than him.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the 18-year-old. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, he was the 18-year-old. Well, he must have been quite charming. I can imagine Shakespeare was quite charming. I mean, okay. Shakespeare was a member of the King's Men.
Yes, Truth Bomb. It started off as the Lord Chamberlain's Men and then became the King's Men.
Oh, wow. Look at this. You're going to knock it out. Yeah, there's a risk that you could become King of Truth Bomb if you keep going on this way. Quite right. Okay. Macbeth was written to please Queen Elizabeth I.
No, that's false. It was King James I, who was Truth Bomb. He was formerly King James VI of Scotland. He became King James I after Elizabeth died.
Oh man, This is as impressive as Jay Dyer, to be honest. Who it was hard to listen to him, so I couldn't understand half the
No,
words.
his
I
was on
saying.
medieval theology. That was a little bit more impressive. I think.
Yeah, and metaphysics too, which caused my brain to go upwards. Okay, that's good. That's good point and a truth bomb. You're looking at, you could get a perfect round. Hamlet is Shakespeare's longest play.
Yes, it is his longest play, and Truth Bomb. It's also got the most lines from a Shakespearean character, and some say that it's named after his son who died, Hamnet.
Ah, indeed. Do you know when his son died? How old he was?
No, but he was about, I think he was like 2 years old. He drowned.
Okay, excellent. That's good. And there's a truth bomb in there. So excellent. You know how to play this game. I'm glad someone does.
He was also a twin. He had a twin named Judith.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What, Shakespeare or Hamlet?
No, Hamnet, his son.
Hamlet. Okay, right. Judith. I wonder if she was any good. Anyway, I never heard of Judith Shakespeare, just saying. Shakespeare never acted in his own plays.
That's false. He did act in his own plays. Some say that he played Prospero in The Tempest. He played the Ghost of Caesar, and he played I think he played King Hamlet, the Ghost of King Hamlet in Hamlet, but he did act.
Okay. I am going to give you an extra point for that. I'm going to give you a bonus point rather than a truth bomb point for that, because that's a good amount of that's strange. If he named Hamlet after his dead son and he played the ghost, that's a bit freaky in there too. Okay. Shakespeare's first play was Titus Andronicus.
Well, there's speculation. It's either Titus Andronicus or Henry VI, Part 2.
So what do you think AI would say?
I think AI would say probably Henry VI, Part 2.
So you're saying true
but
or false?
But I would say Titus Andronicus. AI.
You got to decide AI's
say
official.
False.
Okay,
I'll say false.
True. They said true, so you're not
Okay.
going to get the perfect round, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But I will give you a bonus point for the extra information too, and that's fair enough because AI is probably or could be very wrong on this. Remember that. Shakespeare's daughter Susanna was illiterate.
Ooh. I'll say false.
Yeah, it is false. It is false.
Okay. Okay.
Daddy would not be proud.
Yeah, it seemed a little too weird.
yeah, indeed. No, Susanna Shakespeare could read and write, evidenced by her signature on legal documents, but there's some suggestion that Shakespeare's signature was never his own as well, because he spelt his name in all different sorts of ways. If anybody who's read the Bill Bryson book about Shakespeare would know that as well.
There are no extant examples of Shakespeare's signature, as far as I know. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, Shakespeare's son. Here we go. Shakespeare's son Hamnet died at age 11. You're looking for AI's answer.
I'll say true. I was probably wrong about the last one.
Okay, true.
Yeah.
That's what you say.
Yeah.
Hamlet Shakespeare, his only son, died in 1596, influencing themes of grief in his plays like Hamlet. Okay, so next one, and we're getting through these. So you're doing really well. Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter.
Yes, true. Of course.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us what iambic pentameter is?
Yeah.
It's obviously it's got something to do with 5, hasn't it?
Iambic pentameter is the meter, which is the number of poetic feet in a line, and so penta means 5, so it's an unstressed, stressed poetic foot, and then iambic is the rhythm that's unstressed, stressed. So there are 10 syllables in every line, and it's called blank verse. So it's unrhymed iambic pentameter. And not all of his plays are written that way. There are certain characters who speak in prose, but usually high characters like kings or generals speak in verse, whereas low characters speak in prose.
That's an excellent. You're correct for the truth. I'll give you a point for that, and I'll give you a bonus point as well for that fantastic explanation of iambic pentameter, which Which sounds like a lot of hard work as a songwriter and a writer in general. I can tell you that's a lot of hard work, but I tell you, it would make you really think carefully about the words you use, the order you use them in, and how they sound. So that's very interesting.
It's supposed to mimic the order of the universe, and it becomes kind of hypnotic. Yeah.
Okay. Mimic the order of the universe. That's a beautiful thing. That's a okay. The Tempest was Shakespeare's last solo play.
I think, yes, that's true.
Okay, it's true. Tempest 1611 is considered Shakespeare's final play written alone.
Truth Bomb.
I like it.
Truth Bomb. It's also where Prospero, the magician, is supposed to mimic Shakespeare retiring from writing because he says, "I bury my book." Full Fathom 5. I bury my book, and it's also a play that is about that was informed by the discovery of Bermuda. And so they were aware of the discovery of Virginia because the people that were headed to Bermuda were actually headed to Virginia and got blown off course. So it's supposed to be Caliban existing on an uninhabited island.
That is a really good truth bomb thrown in there. And I think Shakespeare as a subject is brilliant for a game like Truth Bomb because, of course, there's so much conspiracy and there were so many events that happened that were real life events that twisted in time and narrative. Okay, next one. Julius Caesar is a tragedy.
Well, it's called the tragedy. So I'll say true because it's called the tragedy of Julius Caesar, but it's not. The Truth Bomb, it's not actually a tragedy because the title character, the hero, dies in Act 3 of the play, and we already know through dramatic irony that he's going to die. So really, the play is really about Brutus and Cassius. But
that would still be a tragedy. The story of Brutus, surely.
It's called the tragedy of Julius Caesar, but it's not. It
could be the tragedy of Brutus.
It could be.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you a bonus point. That's a good one. That's excellent. Okay. Shakespeare's first folio was published in 1623.
That is true. Yeah.
Okay. True. Yes, indeed. Okay. Collection of 36 Shakespeare plays was published posthumously in 1623 by his colleagues Hemmings and Condell, apparently. Okay. Next one. Twelfth Night features a shipwreck.
That's Viola. So Viola, yes, it has a shipwreck. Yeah, true.
Yeah, true. Viola and Sebastian, of course, is how it starts. Excellent. I'll give you a point for correct there. That's correct. Next one. You got 3 left. Shakespeare was accused of plagiarism.
During his lifetime, they said it was Upstart Crow. So
I'm not necessarily going to say it was during his lifetime.
Okay, I'll say true. Yes, he's been accused of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Contemporaries like Robert Greene accused Shakespeare borrowing from others.
From Christopher Marlowe.
Yeah, indeed. And some people believe that Shakespeare was a construct of all of these various people anyway. Okay, I'll give you the correct for that. 2 left. Shakespeare's sonnets were dedicated to Mr. W.H.
Oh, God. Well, they're dedicated to 3 people, including the Dark Lady. I'll say false.
Okay, it's true. The 1609 sonnets dedication is to Mr. W.H., whose identity remains a mystery, possibly a patron or a lover. AI has to throw in a little bit of a sexy twist. Gay without the E. That's not normal for Shakespeare. He always liked an E in his gaze. All right. Okay. And one more left. Shakespeare wrote in Latin.
He wrote in English, but he did write Latin. I'm not sure what they would say. I'll just say false because he wrote in English. I don't know.
Correct.
Okay,
indeed. Good. Shakespeare wrote in English, though he used Latin phrases and was educated in Latin at grammar school. Indeed, that is true. Okay, so you've got through 18 questions there, but tell me, do you have any truth bombs to finish off the round on Shakespeare in general, on his work, on stuff? I mean, you just stormed through that. When you said to me that you wanted to do your a round on Shakespeare potentially, I did not expect you to be that good. To be perfectly honest, you stormed through it.
Well, there's an enormous amount of just from Shakespeare's works, so I mean, he wrote 37 plays that cover the gamut of the human experience. I would say maybe one thing that is pretty interesting, a sort of misquoted thing from Shakespeare a lot of times, is from Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet also could be considered not a tragedy because again, dramatic irony. We know from the very beginning that star-crossed lovers will take their life. We know they're going to die at the very beginning. So at the end, there is peace between the two houses. So there's kind of resolution. But the main thing with the play is the misquoted line, "Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" People think that Juliet is standing on the balcony asking, "Where are you?" But wherefore means why. So she's actually asking, why are you Romeo? Why do you have to be Romeo Montague? And she's Juliet Capulet. If you could be any other name, then they could fall in love. She's not asking where is it.
Oh, that is truly tragic. Truly tragic. Truly clever. You did excellent. That's a good final point to finish a round. That is a very, very good round in total. I can tell you. I'll tell you later. Anyway, I'll tell everybody later. But in total, you scored 29 points on that round, which is a very good. Well done. Jason Bermas, here you go. You're left with Glastonbury, The War on Terror, Charles Manson, Jesus Was a Jew, and The Fall of Bashar al-Assad. What are you going to choose?
We're going to do The War on Terror, and congrats to Bazed, because he just kind of knocked it out of the park on Shakespeare.
Yeah, didn't he? Well, I'm sure you know a little bit about The War on Terror after all your time. Let's find out. 18 true or false questions on The War on Terror. Of course, here we go. We start off. It's probably going to be an easy one. George W. Bush launched The War on Terror.
Yeah, of course, AI is going to say true to that. That is post 9/11. It got that name almost immediately. I want to say within the first 48 to 72 hours, that was a media mantra that you saw across networks. So AI is going to say that's true.
Yes, indeed. Have you got any truth bombs about that, or it's best to say truth bomb?
Well, I just say this. The War of Terror, as I like to call it, essentially, again, within those first 48 to 72 hours, number one, bin Laden was to blame. Really, I mean, I have clips within the first maybe 5 to 10 hours that are featured, I think, in the opening montage of Fabled Enemies, actually. Anybody can go watch that for free, by the way. And then I would say, in very, very short order, the talking points were Saddam Hussein, and not only weapons of mass destruction, but very early on, the media even tried to portray some type of collusion between bin Laden and Hussein, as if Iraq could have been one of the quote-unquote state sponsors of 9/11. And for anybody that's done research, it is now widely accepted, and maybe it'll be in the AI, that Saudi Arabia, at least through monetary means, was a funder of 9/11. But I'd be hard pressed if they actually said that Pakistan, which we know wired 100,000 to Atta just before the attacks, was a funder as well.
Okay, well, we will do more on that when we get to your later specialist subject, which is 9/11 itself. But I will give you the extra point there, and of course the truth bomb point. That's let's get through. Remember, save up some of the ones, make sure they're related, because there's going to be a lot of this. So the next one, drone strikes increased during the War on Terror.
Oh, I mean, true 1,000%, and AI is going to tell you that as well. What people don't understand, truth bomb, is that actually there was a massive escalation of their use throughout presidencies, despite what administration was in. So you had more from the Bush administration in those 8 years, and then you had more from Obama in those 8 years, and then even Trump was the drone master in his next 4 years, especially if you look what was done with Yemen in this kind of pseudo war that we never declare war, but as Rand Paul and others have rightly stated, we're the ones funding it, we're the ones using our equipment, and we're picking the targets. So a lot of people don't understand about what's going on in Yemen even to this day. But yes, progressive drone escalation, and AI is going to say that.
Yeah, correct. You're correct on the answer. You get good truth bomb there, and I have to say, you know, what you're saying there basically is true. It is exponential growth in the use of such technologies over time that is really the reason why that is true. Okay, that next one up. Carnivore was a post 9/11 surveillance system.
That is actually false. That is a pre 9/11.
Wait. Just one second. Is that what AI says?
Yes, they have to say that. I would say that AI, unless it's talking about it in a separate fashion, and it was only acknowledged after 9/11 or talking Senate hearings, they may say that. But carnivore, I believe, is largely acknowledged in the mid to late 90s. But we'll see.
Okay, well, they say true. So that's what the AI, you have to be careful. I mean, AI did, in the James Delingpole episode, it actually said there were no assassination attempts in 2024 on President Trump. So that was,
that is interesting. I guess I would have to look up that acknowledgement. Maybe they're only copying to Promise, TRUTHBOMB, beforehand, which was another widespread surveillance program. But pre 9/11, you can look at the use of Norris Insight systems, where you had these server rooms in AT&T, Verizon, all the major telecommunication companies, and they were basically splitters for the NSA to take in all of this data. It's Hepting versus AT&T that shows you that, and I'm going to have to do a little research on carnivore myself because I hate to be wrong about that. But again, AI can sometimes be deceptive, and Jason Bermas can sometimes be wrong.
I do believe, though, that you just added in a couple of extras there that are well worth a truth bomb and a bonus point. So you'll still walk away with 2 points for that answer. Okay, next one. The Taliban was fully defeated in 2001.
I mean, what's AI going to say?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean,
don't read too much into AI. Remember, AI.
I know. I guess with Bush's mission accomplished, and the fact that they installed Karzai and Taliban was no longer "quote unquote" in control of Afghanistan, at least officially. I mean, you had the warlords and the tribalism, of course, they stuck around.
But the question is, fully defeated.
Boy, fully defeated. What will AI says that's
forming around in that?
Because if we're not talking about leadership, obviously the Taliban still exists, and now they're probably in more political power, at least publicly, than ever. Although it's not the complete leadership in there officially now. I'm going to say it says false to that one.
Yeah, correct. It does say false to that one. You have added a little bit extra, but I'm going to avoid giving you an extra bonus point for that unless you had something else in there.
Well, I would certainly say this. So when we talk about leadership in Afghanistan, I just mentioned that Hamid Karzai was the first installed leader, but I also mentioned the pockets of tribalism. TRUTHBOMB, Hamid Karzai, who was a Unocal, and that was a big gas company representative and advocate, et cetera, at the time. And yes, obviously that had a lot of the dealings with the gas and oil there for years. His brother was a guy named Walid Karzai, and he was the top warlord and opium dealer in the region.
Oh, yes, it was.
Yes, and Walid, if you didn't understand, just like Hamid, had some intelligence ties. He was eventually assassinated, but we also have numerous accounts, and it's largely acknowledged. I'd love to see what AI says about it, but in particular, the Geraldo Rivera piece, where he is in front of the opium fields that are being protected by our military and actually the local farmers, our Taliban, just so they can regulate that. And I would also say this, in the late 90s, early 2000s, opiates and heroin use in this country was way, way down. And most of it was not coming from Afghanistan because the Taliban was very strict on that. And basically they made it illegal. That, when we talk about an exponential explosion, almost immediately went up 80, 90%. And where do you think those opiates were actually going?
Yep. Excellent truth bomb. Listen, I tell you, that Karzai brother, I've tracked him in a couple of articles. I tracked him in the Daniel Korsky article where the British actually sent Daniel Korsky, who ended up bringing Nicole Junkerman into the Health Tech Advisory Board, who is, of course, an Epstein associate. Korsky also later ran to be Lord Mayor of London. So he's a very influential character with his foot in many pies, including the European Council on Foreign Relations. And he was hooked up with that Karzai brother constantly during that time. So that's very interesting that you mentioned him. Excellent. That's good. Okay, next one. Conspiracies claim war profiteering drove Iraq.
Oh, AI is totally going to say that's true. They love to play into the conspiracy thing and the motivation. So I don't think that they're going to say false, because that's a mainline conspiracy theory that you're allowed to hear on outlets like Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, even a decade and a half ago.
Yeah, the AI actually says narratives allege companies like Halliburton profited from Iraq contracts, because of course we all know they didn't.
Well, let me add on. I mean, it's not just Halliburton. That's the big one that they can go KKR, Kellogg Brown and Root. There are just so many. And, at that time, Halliburton, for those that don't know, there was even some mainline controversy because many in the Bush administration had ties, Dick Cheney in particular.
He's a trustworthy chap, though, with a trustworthy family.
Well, I just want to say this, to show the interconnection of not only the military-industrial complex, war machine, and those military-industrial entities. You had Cheney, who was also very involved in the Enron scandal. And again, at the time, prior to 9/11, that was a huge thing, okay? And people were actually talking about that and the corruption. That was mainline. Not only did you basically have that thing go away and stop being talked about almost immediately by the media post 9/11, because we were on a wartime footing, but many of the documents pertaining to the Enron investigation, many other SEC investigations were lost in Building 7.
Oh, no. What would they ever do?
As not only did you have the SEC in there, but numerous government agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency, and I believe it was the largest Secret Service office outside of Langley in that building. You also had the Office of Emergency Management and all sorts of other goodies there. So that's also worth noting, because they had direct ties to that administration and were just as big a scandal, which was completely forgotten about.
Brilliant truth bomb. I love the fact that AI would be currently going mad just saying conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory, all down the page over and over. Anyway, okay, next one. Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan.
Oh, that is going to be true for AI, as that is the official version. Although I would also prescribe people to know that, number one, as many of the people in the war on terror, there were reports of his death prior to that. They also told us after the fact, after SEAL Team 6 went in there and got him and other people, including his family, they recovered a bunch of hard drives, documentation. On those hard drives were Fritz Springenmeyer's 13 Bloodlines of the Illuminati, as well as a little film I might know a little bit about, Loose Change, was on there. So was Webster Tarpley's book. What was that? It wasn't Crossing the Rubicon. That was Michael. Now I'm getting into the woods here. And he's Michael Rupert. That's no longer there. What Synthetic Terror? That was the Webster Tarpley book, also in there. They also allegedly after this, let Bin Laden's body go out at sea. So you had and TRUTHBOMB. At that time, the internet was big enough where people were starting to move away from television and even television news. And people would complain that everybody gets their news from Facebook. They all get their news from Facebook. So this really was the true era of real, quote unquote, fake news, not just mainstream fake news, where people were starting sites and just saying whatever they wanted and putting out. So after bin Laden was killed, there was also in almost, immediate order, a fake picture of like his head halfway blown off, which is still circulating on the web today. I know I'm rambling, so I'll stop, Johnny.
No, that's good. That's a good truth bomb there. I mean, how do you feel about the fact that Osama bin Laden was watching Loose Change?
If it was Osama bin Laden, I mean, this is the thing.
Even
guys.
if it wasn't and it was his body double, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I would say this. When you look at it, I'm inclined to believe that either it was bin Laden or one of his high-level doubles that was protected by the Pakistani military-industrial complex. His base was right around the corner from that. If you actually look throughout all of the war on terror, back when it was the freedom fighters and everybody was watching Rambo 3, that network of the Mujahideen, which will become Al-Qaeda, Taliban, etc., is bin Laden. He's their freedom fighter. He's their billionaire boy. And not only do you have his family in business with the Bush family and others through oil companies for decades, they vacationed together. A lot of people talk about that Saudi, Prince Bandar Bush and their arrangements, very similar with the bin Laden family and that power structure. So you wonder if he gets burned. Seymour Hersh has a totally different take on what actually occurred in the bin Laden raid, but also says it's the bin Laden raid. And let me give it yet another truth bomb with Pakistan and bin Laden.
You'll only get 1 point. You might want to save these truth bombs for later. But
all right, we'll save the bin Laden Pakistani 9/11 truth bomb that anybody can watch for a little bit later.
Okay. Well, we'll save it for a bit later. But I get a feeling you got a mind full of answers. Okay, next one, because we got to get through some of these. Conspiracies claim the U.S. armed ISIS.
Yeah, they're going to say true to that, despite the fact that anybody can. I mean, on a base level, truth bomb. One of the reasons that these conspiracy theories went out there is because all of a sudden you saw a bunch of Chevy trucks, American Chevy trucks, and AKs, in other words, American arms, with ISIS. They're driving in these trucks with the flags, and those flags were also derivatives of the Al-Qaeda flag that just didn't seem to be working as much. And truth bomb, that's not the only aligned interest. If I had chosen the fall of Bashir al-Assad, just quickly, al-Nusra would be another one of those quote-unquote Al-Qaeda organizations. And truth bomb, Johnny, right now it is largely acknowledged with the fall of Bashir al-Assad and this new leader. What was he? Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda.
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Watching you is like watching art, my friend. It's brilliant. I know. But for us mere mortals with our half brains, we like looking at someone using their full brain. Okay, the CIA was criticized for 9/11 failures.
True. AI is going to say that's true because they're one of the large prevailing mythos is that they weren't sharing intelligence enough, that nobody foresaw these attacks, etc. And those are just pummeled truth bomb. So they're going to say yes because there were small, footnotes, and that mainstream thing was a failure of the imagination. I believe you could actually put that in quotes for the 9/11 Commission. But when you actually look at these things, they did have warnings. There were drills prior to that. So I have a section called Warnings in War Games. We get into it a little bit in Loose Change Final Cut, but I would say the definitive version is in Fabled Enemies. There were a multitude of hijackings going on that morning outside of the 4 that have been talked about. That was actually discussed in the 9/11 Commission. Prior to 9/11, one of the war games that they were running is one called Amalgam Virgo. When we talk about this failure of the imagination, bin Laden, who is an admitted ex-U.S. intelligence asset, is on the cover of Amalgam Virgo. And in that document, among the many war games that are going on between red and blue teams, drones, UAVs, is what? The hijacking of a commercial airliner out of Alaska, and it gets flown into the Capitol building. That's 100% right there. Anybody can go get that PDF. I'll allow you to do the next question, Johnny.
Amazing truth bomb there. Excellent. Operation Enduring Freedom targeted Iraq in 2003.
They're going to say true to that. Absolutely.
No, false.
Oh,
you should have listened carefully.
You're right. Enduring Freedom started with Afghanistan. I'm a dick.
Yeah, I knew when I was writing this up.
You know what?
If I went straight into that was going to happen. Go on. Okay.
The actual operation that led the Iraq War was called Shock and Awe. And Shock and Awe, again, see, Jason doesn't get them all right. Shock and Awe was this bombing campaign that was broadcast across live television on a scale that we had not seen ever. And really the only relation that you could have to that within my generation, a very different time, 2001 to 3, people had about 65 to 100 channels. And at that time, DVR was taking off. When I was a kid, the only thing that even came close, and I think was a predecessor, was also in Iraq. Because they showed you some stuff in Afghanistan, but basically within 3 weeks of that invasion, you had Bush on and they're going to hear all of us soon. Yeah, we've done it. Mission accomplished. When they did Iraq, the first Gulf War was the first time we had seen war in real time on CNN. So, again, you're right. Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan, Shock and Awe, Iraq.
You get the truth bomb, man. You get the truth bomb.
You know what? I'm sick to my stomach that I broke out my jump to conclusions, Matt, and my old man gray hair is failing me.
You're being tricked. I put it in there, and I said it in a way to make sure that I tricked you a little bit. No, you did right.
No excuses.
You were right,
Johnny. No excuses.
The first Gulf War was an epic thing for my child. I was 11 when that started, and it was just incredible to watch, completely incredible to watch on TV, like nothing else. And then that's everything afterwards. Okay, next one. Let's go on. Let's go on. NATO's Article 5 was invoked post 9/11.
I'm going to say true.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
NATO's Mutual Defense Clause was activated after 9/11.
And let me add to that.
Go on. Okay.
Yeah, just because, a lot of people talk about, well, first of all, you had a coalition of the willing. So you had to have these kind of international treaties go along with it very, very early on. And not only did you have, everybody talks about the Patriot Act, but here in the United States, it was the beginning of the National Defense Authorization Act as well. And there was a huge expansionist power of all of these entities. And although, especially in Afghanistan and Iraq, you had sparse boots on the ground from France, Germany, the UK, you had all of their resources intelligence-wise, and you had this new alignment where you had not only that coalition of the willing, but the quote-unquote axes of evil, Johnny.
I think I was always meant to be part of the axis of evil if the axis of the good is all of these nefarious New World Order people. Anyway, that's good. That's a good
Let me add one more thing to that.
Because
again, so a lot of people forget about this timeline. But even though there was an axis of evil, at that time period, Russia was nowhere near on the media scene and was more seen, especially in the very beginning, as an ally in the war on terror. And there were, our relationship with Russia during that first Bush administration was enormous. In fact, there's even a quote out there from Bush Jr. I looked into Putin's eyes, and I think he either saw a human being or a man of God or something ridiculous. But it was a very, very different tone. And it's during that time period that you see Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, the Hollywood couple, over an event with Poot Poot singing, Up on Blueberry Hill.
In fact, only 3 years before, Goldman Sachs, before the 1998 collapse in Russia, Goldman Sachs had sent over a load of big boys to try and rescue as much money and get a lot of Russia's richest to give them the money that they can keep it over in America for a bit, and persuaded them all. And they used George H.W. Bush as a special guest to actually encourage all of that, and it worked as well. It was, and the person who led that effort was a man named Mark Carney. There you go. That's an interesting
yeah, I know. I've heard a little bit about Mr. Carney lately.
Oh, Mr. Carney, yeah. Okay, next one. We got to get through some of these. You've got so much knowledge, Jason. You've got so much knowledge. Okay, next one. Guantanamo Bay opened in 2002 for detainees.
Is it 2002? I mean, I guess 9/11 is during, and then it's 3 months. I don't think it. I think Guantanamo is pre-Iraq. I'm gonna say true to that.
Yep, true. Okay, yeah. Guantanamo began.
And let's talk about Gitmo really quick.
Okay.
It was so unpopular in the United States that in 2008, when they had their first primary debates for the presidency, okay, and this was on CNN. It is the first official YouTube debate. Everybody can go watch it on C-SPAN to this day. There are over 10 people up there. Let's go over some of the all-stars. Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden. You had John Edwards, who was a big all-star at that point. They were trying to push him. You actually had Dennis Kucinich up there, who was real, Mike Gravel, and a host of other establishment Johnny nonsense. Bill Richardson was up there as well. Bill Richardson, governor of New Mexico, very close to the Clinton.
Come on, Bill Richardson. You can trust Bill Richardson.
Yeah. Very Epstein associated. Yeah. Very Epstein associated. So anyway, back to Gitmo. So unpopular that one of the questions, basically you had people giving in their little 480p square YouTube videos and asking, what are you going to do about Guantanamo Bay? The Barack star and everybody down the, we're shutting it down. We're shutting it down. Folks, that's 2008. It's 2025, and we've got a president of the United States saying we're going to put illegal immigrants there.
Yeah, but Gitmo is such a good, I mean, if you've got something like that, why not use it? You know, why not find reasons to use it?
Truth bomb on top of that, to this day, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and several others who have been accused of being the masterminds, along with bin Laden, of the 9/11 plot, have still not been sentenced or in any way had what you would, or I would call a trial by a jury of our peers. Instead, they've had ludicrous military tribunals, which the public barely gets to see a shade of. So 20 plus years after 9/11, the people they said did it have spent 20 plus years there and have never been convicted of any crime in any sort of a court system.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? Well, let's keep going. Hey, we got to keep going. We got to get, because otherwise, I mean, there's a lot of information, and you got 9/11 round later, so I'm sure you can throw some of this up here, up there. But UN Resolution 1441 authorized the Iraq invasion.
1441 authorized it. Trying to think what the UN's position at that time was, because it was incredibly unpopular. I'm going to say, I'm going to say false.
You're correct. It is false. Resolution 1441 demanded Iraq's weapons of mass destruction compliance, but did not explicitly authorize invasion. Remember, Hans Blix was the one who was going backwards and forwards during that time. You remember Mr. Blix.
And Hans Blix, of course, featured in the Team America movie. Hans Blix! Along with, at the time, not Kim Jong-il, but Kim Jong-un, his father, as like the apex of that axis of evil, because North Korea and Iran were included in that axis of evil, with, of course, Iraq at the time. And, you know, Truth Bomb.
Oh, here we go.
Even at the time, in order to try to sway the American public behind an invasion, because like I said, you know, again, it was 20 plus years ago, but I remember there was a lot of international resistance, and there was only so far that the UN was going. You had Colin Powell, who had actually been lionized as a hero in the original Gulf War and was a very public and celebrated military figure, in front of the halls of our government, showing very, very, very blurry and non-descriptive satellite photos of what he said were chemical weapons and weapons of mass destruction. And guess what? Nope.
Hey, listen, we don't have to guess. We already know. Oh, Mr. Powell, he was showing us little test tubes with powder in, but that powder was probably sherbet. He was like, I'll give you the truth bomb on top, but we keep going, we keep moving. Conspiracies claim drone strikes are illegal. Listen to that as a sentence from AI.
Yeah, it's going to say true. And I guess, honestly, I guess it would depend on where you are and what you call as legal. But AI will say that's true in conspiracy theories. But even the United Nations, who I don't, like to give a lot of credit to, has called the new type of AI drone strikes basically, what is it, inhumane weapons or something like that. Yeah, like no bueno.
AI is protecting itself, it looks like, and it is saying that narratives question the legality of drone strikes under international law, but AI has never done anything wrong. Shh, that's what it's saying. I'll give you just the point for the correct there. We'll go on to the next one. The coalition of the willing invaded Iraq.
We brought that up. Of course, it was the coalition of the willing. It was led by the United States, and they're going to say true to that. But once again, when you look at this and the war of terror, even today, with what they told you was us leaving Afghanistan, we have tens of thousands of bases that were not there from the coalition of the willing, many of them U.S. driven, but you also have NATO bases in many of these areas that include Afghanistan, which was the initial invasion, Iraq, parts of Syria. I mean, you can get into AFRICOM, and there's many in Africa as well. So, yes, true and much more.
Yeah, true and much more. I'll give you the point there, of course. Go down to the next one. Conspiracies. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 left. Conspiracies, again, they like to word it like this, partially because I had to go at AI about using the term conspiracies and how they used it. Conspiracies claim 9/11 was for imperialism.
Oh, again, it's going to say true for that one. That was very, very mainline to this day. That's usually with the LIHOP people. For people that don't know what LIHOP or MIHOP is, let it happen on purpose. And then there's the made it happen on purpose. I always tell people there's something in between that people don't understand, and that is an international intelligence ops with players in different arenas. So when people go out there with the mantra, Johnny, that 9/11 was an inside job, partially true. In order to have this happen, you have to have somebody schedule these war games. You have to have these hijackers, if you will, not only set up and trained at military bases. That's usually U.S. intelligence when you look at it, right? Because the war games themselves are being conducted underground. Dumbs are so hot right now, deep underground military bases. Well, Cheyenne Mountain is the daddy pants that we knew about even then. And the drills that were putting what they call phantoms on the radar, fake hijackings, those went on for 20 minutes after United 93. Okay, I mean, we could keep going, but I know we got to get through these. Truth bomb. They're going to say yes, but it goes so much deeper. You can get into the Israeli action, not just the ones that we caught on the roof.
We can talk about that later. I'm going to give you the point. I'm going to give you the point anyway, but you're quite right. And it's interesting you mentioned some things as well, which are, I actually, when I was choosing the questions, I took out LIHOP and a few other questions because, I was God, those are super hard. That's what I thought. Anyway, next one. Bagram Air Base held detainees.
True. They're gonna say true to that.
Yeah, true. Okay. I'm gonna go on to the next one. Saddam Hussein was captured in 2001.
Oh, that's false. Saddam Hussein, although they said he had many doubles, I believe I don't think it took till 2004. I think I think the initial invasion was, maybe I'm wrong about that, man. Was it 2003 or 4? Truth bomb, not sure, but they found him in a hole, and then he was tried and hung in public, the guy they said, in short order, after they had already killed his 2 sons in an airstrike.
Yeah, but his 2 sons really deserved it. I mean, they were bad eggs. I mean, out of the whole of the Iraq War, that's the only thing I agreed with. Right, yeah, no, completely correct. But I won't give you a truth bomb point unless you decide whether it was 2003 or 2004.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna shift from what I was thinking in the very beginning. I'm gonna say 2004 because the beat was on. I want to say for at least several months after the initial invasion and then pulling down the statue. 2004.
I'm afraid it was December 2003, right on the edge. Oh, just edging it, just like we all like. Okay, next one, last one. Conspiracies claim the CIA funded Al Qaeda.
Yes, they're going to say true to that. But as I talked about earlier, not only the post 9/11 connections, but the connections with the bin Laden network and the Mujahideen. Now, as I stated before, Pakistani intelligence would be one of those things that was connected to 9/11. Pakistani intelligence, was not only highly revamped post-World War II with U.S. and British intelligence, but they teamed up in the 70s and 80s openly. And when you look at bin Laden himself, like I said, where's he found? Next to a Pakistani military base. Now, here's that truth bomb we kept for a little earlier.
Oh, yeah, baby.
There was a report in January of 2002, I believe it was Dan Rather and CBS News, where they went to a hospital in Pakistan, and a multiple of the staff, including doctors and nurses, said that the man they called Osama bin Laden was there the eve of 9/11, so the night before the attacks, and he was surrounded by the Pakistani military, and he was receiving dialysis. These dialysis things had been reported all the way back in the 90s. But once again, this was in and out of the media because Pakistan was never named, named as a part of the war on terror or the axis of evil, Johnny.
Extraordinary round, extraordinary truth bomb there, extraordinary brain you've got. Give me one last truth bomb to finish off the round on the war on terror, then something where you think will put a nice little dot at the end of this round.
Well, once again, in order to sell that war on terror, Pakistan obviously cannot be involved. And you had the head of the Pakistani ISI, which is their intelligence CIA, not only in the United States the week of 9/11, but on the morning of 9/11, meeting with people like George Tenet, who were the head of the CIA at the time, but especially having breakfast as the attacks happened in Washington, D.C., with 2 individuals, Porter Goss, who will become the head of the CIA, and Senator Bob Graham of Florida, both of which will co-chair that initial congressional investigation that had the 28 pages redacted that showed that Saudi Arabian involvement. I would encourage people to check out Fabled Enemies, and you'll actually be able to see Bob Graham comment on his relationship with the head of the Pakistani ISI and how he talked about it was his job to be that close to the Taliban. Bonus truth bomb. Joe Biden also met with him post 9/11 attack in that week, went on television, I believe it was September 13th or 14th, and bragged about that meeting with him. And by the way, said he was the first or second most powerful man in Pakistan. I could go on for another 20 minutes about that Pakistani relationship. Go check out Fabled Enemies. It's in the Pakistan chapter.
Go watch all of your work is what I say to all of the people who are watching this. Is very important, and it gave me a good grounding to understand what was really going on from a very early age. I must have watched Loose Change very, very early on, and I would think it was around the time it came out, and I know people around me as well were heavily affected by the information and realized, it was a big red pill moment before the term red pill had really seeped out to mean the wakening up in normal world that Mencius Moberg first used that term for to mean that in normal everyday conversation. But that is a fantastic. It's true. Pakistan has been used as a proxy for many years. I mean, I've done a lot of work on the work that I haven't released yet on Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and the nuclear program that happened in Pakistan. The race against India, and how he was actually mentored by people like John Kenneth Galbraith, who also mentored Schwab, and also mentored Gloria Steinem, and also had Benazir Bhutto mentored later on, and was a big CIA man. Very interesting indeed. Everything you said there was excellent final point to end it off. Jason, I knew that was going to be epic. Thank you very much. In that wall of dystopia round, Bazed Lit Analyzer scored 16 points, 7 truth bombs, 5 bonus points, and 1 corruption point, and an extra point on top, equaling 30. Jason Bermas scored 16 points, 14 truth bombs, 2 bonus points, 0 corruption points because he's such a good boy, and he got 32, leaving the scores 30-32. Great first round for you. An actual fact, we're going to give myself a truth bomb point for the Mark Carney revelation, I've been told. So, woo, I'm on the scoreboard for the first time. Who would think that? Bazed, you studied in Belfast, of course.
I did. Mm-hmm.
So were you more of a prosy lover or a rock cake advocate? Which one were you?
I might get in trouble for this, but that's all right. I live with all Protestant Ulster loyalists, of course. No, but yeah. But I went to school with everybody. So, and as an American, I was kind of outside of all that. But
yeah, I kind of like. I to be honest, I liked them all. I didn't even care. My great granddad, so 2 greats, was Orange Order, apparently.
Yeah.
So
not a fan of the Raw. I'll say that. Not a fan of the Raw.
Yeah,
not a fan.
Yeah. They on the back of my. I remember finding my dad's, who's passed now, God bless his soul. But I turned over his school picture, and on the back, I brought out the photo album. On the back, written there was "I hate Catholics." So I mean, it obviously affected him in some way. But then he loved Catholic women. So what can you say? Do you think they'll ever start fighting again in Northern Ireland, or are they becoming fat from all the incessant globalism?
I'm not sure. I think that everything, any kind of sectarian rift now will continue. I mean, Protestants and Catholics are not going to. I think there's a new generation now, so things have certainly calmed down as far as that goes. But as far as sectarian divide, that's probably going to continue, and also with what you would call former paramilitaries being funded in order for organized crime, that'll probably continue.
Interesting, kind of. It drops down into organized crime levels.
Well, that's even when I was there. Loyalists and nationalists were both funded in a sense by organized crime, by racketeering and the drug trade, etc. I mean, that was major. That was mainstream news at the time. So when decommissioning happened, people thought that would continue. And decommissioning happened also because of 9/11. That was the thing that caused them. They didn't want to be on the terror list, both sides, with the UVF and the IRA. But that'll probably continue.
Yeah, so. Yeah, and worse, and if anything else goes on. But if you could choose to live anywhere in the world, where would you go? Would it be America?
Well, I was born in Virginia, and I'm gonna die in Virginia. This is my home. I love it. I'm extremely loyal to Virginia and to the South in the United States. My favorite other place in the world is Belfast. My heart's kind of there. And but this is where I'm going to be.
What about you? I don't think you'd want to settle outside the US. Do you think you'll stay in America even when it's a Latino dictatorship?
Yeah, unless I can get my family to leave with me. You know, like right now, you know, I've been helping raise my nieces since they were 6 and 8, and now they are 16 and 14. So we literally have 2 more years of high school for the one and 4 years of high school for the other. There's zero chance of me leaving them. But you know, I took them with me from New York. I moved them up from the ghettos of Virginia, where I wouldn't have wanted them to be, into New York and upstate New York. But the COVID 1984 nightmare it was just too much. We settled here in the Midwest. It is a different world in many ways here, and I'm trying to give them every opportunity possible. You know, I do want to travel more. You know, it's one of my dreams to go have beers with James Corbett out in Japan and go catch a ONE FC or a Ryzen MMA event. But, you know, one of the reasons I love it here in Iowa is, Johnny, you know, over the weekend, I'll be calling caged aggression fights. My boy Jen Pulver just flew out to Vegas, where he's going to be doing something with the UFC pay-per-view here. I feel like a very blessed man. And that's the other thing, you know, maybe I can get across to the audience is, you know, you talk about a place to live. Well, there's a place in your mind to live too. It doesn't have to be one of ignorance, and you should definitely keep up on these type of things. And don't get me wrong, those kind of things that I'm talking about with MMA, they might be in the backdrop, but you still got to have them. But ultimately, to me, it's all about family, brother.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you, and that's so beautiful. And I know you. I've watched you for a long time, and I know you're a caring guy, and I know you've got a definite soft spot in your heart for all your family. I appreciate that. What do you think the future of the US looks like politically, with the population demographic changing so swiftly? What do you think it looks like?
I don't know. You know, honestly, I think it generally moves in whatever direction the next administration, at least socially, wants to. As far as the war fitting, right now we're in a bad place, right? And you and I have kind of discussed this in the past. If there is a false flag or an event like a 9/11, whether it be a terrorist attack that kills 3,000 or maybe even tens of thousands, that could change us in an instant. And right now, I think that the other big thing is that if Trump had been killed in Butler, or if Trump is killed now, that also changes everything in an instant. They've already set the narrative, not only amongst the mainstream, but many in the alternative, that somehow Iran was behind these assassination attempts. Let me talk about the plausibility of that. If you're talking about Iranian leadership and it being run, that's a 0% possibility. But if you are talking about a group that was very sympathetic to somebody like Soleimani, who was our buddy in the war on terror and fought alongside U.S. troops against ISIS, right, and these other organizations that were pinned as the enemy, well, you could easily find a proxy organization that is a smaller military or fanatical group, and then utilize other proxies like our own system of privatized mercenaries through the intel community to set something up where, again, do we have answers on Butler? Not really. Do we have a lot of answers even on this guy that was so connected to the Ukraine? Not really. So I think this guy is because you get J.D. Vance in there. J.D. Vance is Peter Thiel, is Palantir.
Yep, completely.
He is going to go down the line on whatever. I mean, he's a builder, bro. Okay, and that's why he's there.
It's what I was going to say to you when you said anything could happen. It could be tens of thousands, something like that. But if something happened to Trump, well, if something was to happen to Trump, the technocrats would be in full charge. And I'd be happy to move to America to fight alongside you, my friend, because that'll be the front line of something that's much bigger. The technocrats they will rise and they will fall, but they will fall. That's what I will say. Anyway, let's try and keep it light. Let's try and keep it a little bit light. Let's have a little bit of fun. If you had to be ruled by either Bolivians, Mexicans, or Colombians, would you really care with all that cocaine flying around the place?
As a guy that is not Coke Monkey McGregor and actually looks down on that drug in particular for numerous reasons. But, why not just throw it out there? My father was a kind of a low-level Coke dealer who eventually, when I was 12 years old, got convicted, got 3 to 5 in a federal penitentiary, did about one of those years, Johnny, and then he got out on work release. Had actually improved his life tremendously, went back to college, became a graphic designer before computers were around, that we're talking about mid-90s at this point. Dropped dead within 3 months of a diagnosis. I think that probably got in the prison system and was dead at 36, 36 years old. So now I've almost lived, in fact, next month, I'll have lived a decade more than my dad. And I attribute a lot of that to not going down the cocaine rabbit hole.
You got to hope those Bolivians, those Mexicans, and those Colombians don't end up in charge of America, because after that, that's what your currency is going to be. The 2 C's in CBDC will mean something completely different when it comes down to that, I promise. Right. Now we're entering the round called Wankity Wank. Honest and truthful AI has come up with 8 quotes. However, I have sneakily swapped one of the words with the famous phrase with the word wank. It will be our contestants' job to guess the original word. If they get the quote wrong, then the opportunity is handed over to the opponent. Alongside the quote, the contestants will see a picture of the person behind the famous phrase. You can gain an extra point for identifying the author of the quote, but only if you correctly guess the missing word. You can only score points for a truth bomb if you answered correctly. Bazed Lit Analyzer. Actually, no, Jason, you're going to go first in this round, I think. Okay. Bazed, because Jason goes first in the next round and the next round. Okay. Bazed, let's play Wankity Wank. Right, here we go. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to wank it. As you see, there's a devilish MLK Jr. there with his puppy army, his devilish puppy. They're very cute, but they'll nibble your toes until you have no toes left.
As he who helps to, I don't know.
It's a hard one. Some of these are hard, some of them are easy.
As he who helps to foster it.
I felt like you.
Can I jump in? I'm wondering.
Yeah, you got hands over. If he gets it wrong, which he has, it hands over to Jason. Jason, go on.
I'm not super confident, but I believe it's actually who helps to wage it.
Oh no, you definitely no. This one was a hard one. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. So perpetrate's a hard one. It is a hard one. Of course, that's big bad MLK Jr. Go over to the next one. This is, I'm not sure if you know this guy. Terrorism has become the systematic weapon of a war that knows no borders or seldom has a wank.
Is this me?
No, this over to Jason.
Oh, damn.
I am going to say end.
No. Again, I've chosen 2 hard ones to start off, not make it easy on either of you. Mind you, in the last game of Wankity Wank, I think no one got any of the answers, which is good. I like it. Go on, Bazed.
A nationality?
No, unfortunately. Seldom has a face. So terrorism has become a systematic weapon of war that knows no borders or seldom has a face. It's very interesting how all of these sort of quotes, if you use different words, make sense in a different way. That's, of course, Jack Chirac up there, the old froggy leader. Let's go for the next one. This is back over to you, Bazed. The real terrorist threats are not from abroad, but from the policies that wank enemies.
Suppress?
No. Jason.
I'm going to go with create.
Oh, he's done it. He's done it. He's
Damn.
got the first point. Jason's got the first. Real terrorist threat are not from abroad, but from the policies that create enemies. And who is that devilish puppy lover?
So this is the man behind manufactured consent. He is a linguist, MIT style, and a hero of the left. And man, why is his name?
I love this. This happened with John Klajcek when it was.
Hold
Mike
on,
Pence.
it's killing me because you know I obviously
I can't I can't let you rest and think. That's not fair. I did with John Klajcek either.
starts with an N.
I suppose I could
Noam
just
Chomsky.
say,
That is Noam Chomsky, and he is again the MIT professor that's smarter than all of us. Has come up with manufactured consent and will only entertain things like the LIHOP theory that we discussed earlier. Won't discuss Building 7, doesn't care much about it, and is also very authoritarian when it comes to things like COVID 1984.
And had money invested in with Jeffrey Epstein as well. It was very naughty of you, Noam. Only about 300,000, but still, what was the point of doing that for that amount of money? I have no idea. Anyway, that was correct. You get a point for getting the quote, the create right, and you get a point for Noam Chomsky as well. This one's for you to start off as well, Jason. So, a global war on terror is the stepping stone to a new world order where dissent is labeled as wank.
Man, I'm not seeing it, and I'm not seeing the person that said it. Can you read
it?
Oh,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize. You may see the person who said it. There you go.
Okay, so now that I know who it is,
a global war on terror is the stepping stone to a new world order where dissent is labeled as wank.
Man, I mean, the obvious one to go with would be, I don't want to give him any thoughts because I don't want to give him a 50-50. Let me see. I'm going to say criminal.
Oh, no. It was the other one you were thinking of. Go on.
Is it treason? Is it treason?
No, it's good. What was the other one you were thinking, Jason?
I was thinking terrorism, just an extension from terror to terrorism, but I guess not.
No. Of course, it was Glenn Greenwald, and it's a global war on terror is a stepping stone to a new world order where dissent is labeled as evil. You were on the right track, Jason. You were on the right track, but that was a hard one. As this one's for you, Bazed. Here we go. That picture is a dream, I've got to say. This might be a bit easier. The greatest evil of our time is the perpetual war on terror that justifies endless wank.
I want to say war, but he wouldn't repeat the word war in the phrase, so it would be.
You're quite right. You wouldn't.
Intervention?
No, over to Jason. It's a cheeky round.
Man,
it's a cheeky round.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, you could go with warfare as as an expansion. It's a professional war on terror that justifies endless. I'm going to go with warfare.
No, unfortunately. Do you know, either of you know who that is?
Yeah, Chris Hedges.
Yeah, Chris Hedges. Yeah. It's control. The greatest evil of our time is the perpetual war on terror that justifies endless control. It is quite a hard one to get. That is quite a hard one to get. I'll accept that I'm a bastard. And I'll write it down in a book. Boo hoo hoo. It'll be called the Boo hoo hoo book, where I cry about being a bastard. Okay. The New World Order thrives on the narrative of evil that the war on terror wanks. Jason.
Could be several things, but I'm going to say creates.
It is a very hard one. No, it's not create. Phased. It's either again. These are hard. I'm not going to lie to you. I am a bastard.
the war on terror succeed wages. I don't know.
What are you going to go with?
Yeah, let's go with that. The war on terror,
the New World Order, thrives
on
the narrative of evil, the war on terror?
Wages.
Well, perpetuates, I'm afraid. That was a hard one as well. Anybody know who that is?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, you don't know who that is? That's Naomi Klein. Naomi Klein.
Oh, okay.
No,
Not the good one.
Yeah, when
Not
you say,
Wolf.
yeah, I know.
Not the good Naomi.
No. I don't know Naomi Wolf. She's all right. She's all right. Okay, this is over to you, Bazed. Evil is not defeated by war, but by understanding the war on terror wanks this.
It'd be funny if that was the actual quote from the fucking Daily the war on terror negates. I don't know.
Oh, very close. No. Over to you, Jace.
Well, just because you said very close, I'm going to go nullifies.
Oh, ignores, and it does make sense. Evil is not defeated by war, but by understanding the war on terror ignores this. Dalai Lama, of course. There's one left. You've nearly cleaned around, boys. There's one in there so far. So this over to you, Jason. Evil persists when the war on terror becomes a tool for economic wank. Oh, Wankity wank is such a brutal round. Yeah. I love it. She's looking pretty sexy there, though, with those pups. Look at them pups.
I'm going to go
about the dog.
How about destruction?
Go with destruction. No. I'm going to go over to Bazed. I keep wanting to say blazed because I know you are.
Okay, it becomes a tool for economic domination.
Yes! Bazed Lit Analyzer.
Totally dominated.
One there. Yeah, total domination.
Right.
Do you know who that is?
Sirhana. I don't know if
he hangs around with Prince Charles. She's best friends with Prince Charles and a few others. She's one of the ones who hangs around with the World Economic Forum circle. She is Vandana Shiva, the Vandana Shiva. Very interesting. Well, boys, I have to say, you didn't do totally amazingly on that round, but you did pick up a
that was
couple.
Tough, dude.
But it's a tough round. I'm not going to lie to you. It really does get hard. Okay, in round 2, Wankity Wank, Bazed Lit Analyzer got 1 point, and Jason Bermas got 2 points. Well done, guys. I hope you're happy with yourself. Okay, did you enjoy the Wankity Wank round, Jason?
Yeah, tough one. I mean, the more I can see the word wank, the happier my day is going to be, right?
Yeah. How do you feel about the most evil people on Earth having access to biological sensors in your butt?
I'm all against it. Just like I would be against even the sensors in quote-unquote medicine that they now use via what is known as MySight technology, which is a dissolvable Bluetooth sensor to ensure that you take your medication. One of the popular ones that has this is called Abilify, for when your antidepressants don't work. They've got this other drug called Abilify, and to ensure that you take it, it is also encompassed with MySight technology.
Oh, it will be immutable, unmutable, and terrible. I can tell you that. What about you, Bazed? Do you plan on getting butt sensors? Or do
I don't
you
think
want
so.
to keep all of that activity in your digestion?
Keep the wankers away from me. That's what I say. Keep them away.
Keep the wankers away from me, would you? I can't do the Northern Ireland unless I just stop talking. Like now that's where I get to Northern Ireland. When I start to talk like this, I can talk like but I have to keep one tone all of the time.
Your ma's your da.
Yeah, Mars, yeah, that, yeah. But now you're getting common Northern Ireland. I was posh Northern Ireland, so I mean, anyway. What do you reckon, Jason? Was the testing of sewer water during COVID just a gateway to the official butt inspection?
It's a good question.
Slowly working their way upstream.
I do
think that final point.
I do think. I mean, some of the first water that they tested in the United States was actually right there in Oneonta, New York, where I was. So even before it became a national story, I knew they were doing it. I think that the evidence, at least that they presented from that, makes it very clear that COVID was actually in the United States September, October, November at the latest, and really September, October of 2019, before even the hype surrounding what would happen in the Wuhan games in China came about. A lot of people forget that was like the worst flu season we had ever had, and there were numerous cases of young people actually going into the hospital for what they were calling popcorn lung and blaming on the vape phenomenon. So, you know, I don't know whether it's pseudoscience or not. I'm certainly not comfortable with them getting down to the very microscopic levels of everything that we do based on our carbon footprint and our biological reality, Johnny.
Indeed, and I think popcorn lung also sounds like some sort of shit anecdote as well. Well, it's all crap, if you ask me. We have reached the specialist subject round, Jason. I'm going to ask you 18 general knowledge questions generated by an honest and truthful AI on the 9/11 attacks, which is seriously a specialist subject of yours for many years, something you dedicated your life to an extent. You may sense outrageous AI skullduggery, rich with establishment narrative, and you can earn extra points by setting the story straight. You know how to do it. Just say truth bomb along the way. Are you ready, my friend?
I am. Let's do it.
Jason, your 18 questions on the attacks on September the 11th. Some of these will be hard. Some of these will be easy. Most of these will probably be water off a duck's back to you. Here we go. What time did the North Tower collapse on 9/11? Well, I know. I knew that one was going to... I just sent Jason Bermas back into his chair. Whew, that's power.
9:46?
Oh, 10:28 a.m. I'm afraid. You can earn back a point by throwing in a truth bomb for it.
Boy, man, when we want to talk about the collapse of the towers, I would just tell people that when you look at not only the fact that these were not the first two skyscrapers to be hit by sizable planes. You had a B-52 hit the Empire State Building, but you also had numerous reports of other explosions, secondary explosions, one before the plane hit the tower in the basement level of the World Trade Center. And I would also say the forensic evidence, aka the videos of the police department coming into the ground floor, which had another 10 stories below it into the subway system and beyond. You had not only marble panels blown off the walls, but what is essentially bulletproof and really shockproof in many cases, glass that was this thick in those halls, totally and completely destroyed, with no burn marks, by the way. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly that the official explanation, whether this is asked by AI or not, is that somehow, some way, that initial explosion that came down came through all of the elevator shafts, 90 plus in some cases stories, and then blew out there. But what they don't tell you is that the building was hermetically sealed, and that would have really been an impossibility, as the elevator shafts were actually staggered every, I believe, 30 or so floors, so that you would have to get off and then get on and then get off if you were in those upper areas.
You are going to have so many truth bombs on this round, obviously. So I expect to see at least I expect to see basically a full run of truth bombs. That's for sure. You get a point there, of course. What building collapsed without being hit by a plane?
Well, obviously, World Trade Center 7 is going to be the one that many people saw and collapsed.
Well, it's what AI is asking. So, but they are saying, 7 World Trade Center.
Yeah, 7 would be the one. But let me say this. Although it was not completely demolished, Building 6 had a large scoop out of the building from the very top that you can see in the satellite photographs. And you had multiple areas within the World Trade Center facility that also had 2,000 plus degree temperatures that were not only caught on the record by the NASA thermal imagery, but discussed by George Pataki, who was the governor of New York at the time, discussed by Giuliani multiple times publicly, but with Building 6 in particular, Ken Holden of FEMA went on the record and said that there was molten metal dripping within Building 6, also not part of the official narrative, although it was an official of FEMA that brought that to light. Bonus truth bomb. James Bukarski, who was heading up, I believe, those Office of Emergency Management drills for FEMA, actually discussed the week of 9/11 that under the towers themselves, there was an incendiary effect. And basically, you had 2,700 degree temperatures where it was basically a crematorium and created a cremation effect. So he was unsure of how many of the dead would actually be able to be identified.
Incredible. Okay, right. I normally don't. I either give it a truth bomb, I give a point, I give a bonus point, I give a corruption point, or whatever, or laughter point. But I'm going to give you a point, I'm going to give you a bonus point, and I'm going to give you a truth bomb point because I think what you're doing is, and what you've done for years is special, and you're able to expand out this story like no one else. I was really looking forward to this. It's not disappointing at all. Let's go on to the next one. What terrorist group was responsible for the 9/11 attacks? This is according to AI.
AI is going to see Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, again, there's a reason I made Fabled Enemies. So, especially when we talked earlier about the ISI and their funding, at least of Muhammad Atta and others, to talk about another group, the Mossad. You not only had this group that seemed to be filming the event that day. In fact, you cannot see the photographs that they took, but you can see scans of those photographs on like a black and white, you used to throw your ass on it right there. Those things, a copy machine, basically. So they had pictures, folks, of these people. They kept them from the public. And then they had copy machine photos they released eventually due to FOIAs. But the best part is they put squares over their faces so you couldn't see their reactions. One of the photos actually shows somebody holding up a lighter to where the World Trade Center was on fire. Now, you had somebody in the area seeing that they were doing this, taking the pictures and possibly filming. It hasn't been clear, and the FOIA did not provide any footage, but calls the police. They're arrested. There's another group arrested that day where they're pulled over, they're in a van, and essentially a dog smells explosive material, so they're detained. A lot of people think those are the only two groups that day. There's a third group that is in a van, and there is an explosion of their van on King Street. Police audio of that is in my film, Fabled Enemies. However, that is just the network that was caught that day. A lot of people don't know. Within that network, you already had people being arrested from around the country. Many people have heard about the Israeli art students, but in that network, which was a widespread network through the country, once again, you also had individuals that had opened up kiosks in malls. So before we had the little drone-like things, in the States, we had these little toys that were helicopters. And there'd be a little zip line. And you'd pull the zip line, and it would fly up and come down there. Now, the other thing about these individuals is that they were related to not only Urban Moving Systems, which was in that World Trade Center complex, but companies called Amdocs and Comverse that were responsible for a lot of the telecommunications in the United States. And in that piece, showing all of these people that were arrested before 9/11, were part of the group on 9/11, and that were arrested after 9/11, they had compromised essentially every single government buildings, and some in secret. So how would they have done that? Not only in person, but like I said, Amdocs and Converse back in the day, like we talked about Promise and Carnivore and those things, Johnny, they were responsible simply for the billing systems. So we all didn't have free minutes back when these things didn't exist. You actually got charged for a thing called long distance. So they would time you out. So they would know how long one phone number would call another phone number. And from that, they would get the addresses of those phone numbers and they would work things out. So it was a large intelligence network.
There was a large intelligence network. I know. I mean, we got to go on, but I can't remember how many people. If you can remember, you've already got a point for getting the correct answer, a point for the truth bomb, but you could have an extra point if you can tell me how many Israelis got deported afterwards.
I believe the mainstream numbers, although it didn't give a specific number, were in the 150 person range. So that is, I will say this. Both Colin Powell, who we discussed earlier, and Ari Fleischer, who was the press secretary on the time, got asked in the press room about the detention of these Israelis. And both had to admit it, but they punted it to the Department of Justice.
Yeah, I'll accept the bonus point there. That's all very good. All very good. Right. Okay, now we'll keep going. What flight crashed into the Pentagon on 9/11?
175. Flight 175.
Well, they say...
Wait, no, it's not 175. It's flight 11. No, it's not flight 11. It's flight... Hold on.
I love this. I haven't accepted your answer yet. Wait, I haven't accepted your answer. You've now given me...
Awful.
You're going... No. Go on. Which one is it?
Flight 11 is First World Trade Center. Second is 175. 93 is in Pennsylvania. And why is the fourth plane's number is now eluding me? Well, 11.
You want me to say no?
175. Hold on. Hold on. It's killing me that I don't have it because I want to think. I want to say it's an American Airlines flight. And
well, Jason's thinking. I'll just.
You know what? Why can't I think about the fourth plane? 175, 11, 93.
Do you know what airline it was?
Like I said, I believe it was the American Airlines plane. It wasn't a United.
So if you say American Airlines.
Yeah, man. It's killing me. 77. Is it flight 77?
Look at that. Yeah, listen, I have to say, I'm not going to give you the point there.
No, you can't give me the point on that. I'm embarrassed that I didn't have all four.
That was fun. No, it was fun to watch a man have to try and get to the end of his tether to find out what the end of, and you did it. You did it. I knew that if you had just said American Airlines, then it would kind of come back and you remember everything. That's how memory works. Do you have any truth bombs on there to garner an extra point?
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, first of all, it seems like obviously the four planes that they gave us were United and American Airlines flights. But currently, there's a documentary on a plane called United 23. And maybe that was clouding my mind because I kept saying wanted to say United and 20, and I knew it wasn't either. United 23 is in my film Fabled Enemies. And at the time, we knew that there were individuals that were described as Muslim in appearance, and supposedly, every indication from the staff was that they were going to hijack the plane that day. Unfortunately for them, it was unable to take off on time, and all planes were grounded. Now, the really interesting thing that was reported back then was that they got off the plane, they left their luggage, and they were never found. And their luggage matched Atta's luggage in the sense that Atta's luggage didn't make a connecting flight, and they found it. And this is where they came up with the flight manuals and the Quran and the Rada from Islam. Now, remember,
convenient.
Exactly. Now, here's the kicker. They said that they couldn't find these people because they used false identification. Well, if they used false identification, why wouldn't the other hijackers use false identification? On top of that, finding out more of what actually happened, TMZ has now put out their documentary on this for free. I would encourage people to watch it. And it shows you what they meant by Muslim in appearance. They claimed that one of the people they thought was going to hijack the plane was a man dressed in a burqa. They also talked about the fact they had a small child on the plane with them that they tried to get into the cockpit early on. They also mentioned how the plane is extremely empty, much like the other planes that day. I think the average has them at around or under 50% altogether.
Wow.
And on top of that, they actually had a fake lineup, Johnny. The FBI had them all later that day where they brought in other Muslims, and none of them were the people on that plane. There's even more to get into from that documentary.
Wow.
It seems like you had two individuals that had access to the plane after everybody was disboarded. You had eyewitnesses seeing them on the plane. And then the FBI specifically asked everybody why the hatches that went below into the electronics room were opened. Now, the real question is, were these people that went on the plane after the fact through the hatch underneath on the runway to go get weapons off the plane, because weapons were actually found on numerous other planes, including one next to Flight 23 that day? Or were they in that area the entire time with access to the electronics, where even if the hijacking had failed, they could have commandeered the plane and done whatever they want to it?
That's amazing. There's so much to be had there. That's a good extra point there to be earned, even though you didn't earn the question point. But okay, let's keep going. You have so many answers where you have answers that some of them are questions, but they're the next question that you ask when you find the next answer, and that's the way this stuff works, isn't it? Where was the Pennsylvania field, which was the site of a 9/11 crash?
So Shanksville, Pennsylvania is the
Correct.
official location for the crash there, but I would always add to that one of the big things about 9/11 and that quote-unquote crash site is that you did not have large pieces of debris anywhere. It was strewn out over an 8-mile radius, although the media will lie to you about that, and they will say, well, we found some stuff at Indian Lake. And, you know, if you are driving there, back in the day, it was Google Maps. Not everybody had GPS. It'll give you like an 8-mile distance. It's really only a mile and a half away. Truth bomb. They also found debris from that plane over a mountain ridge 8 miles away in a place called New Baltimore. Okay. And another truth bomb that I'd like to put out there, which is almost completely unbelievable, but one of the things that was perpetrated not only by the mainstream media, but really put out there in the Paul Greengrass film, United 93, on the Let's Roll Todd Beamer story, is that the hijackers were wearing red bandanas. In the trials of Zacharias Moussaoui, the supposed 20th hijacker, who, while he was tried, had to wear a stun belt in court, look it up, they presented, and anyone can go see this, red bandanas that were recovered from the crash site that are still folded as if they were around somebody's head, completely unbloody and burnt, with no head attached to them whatsoever, as evidence that they did this.
Wow, that's pretty. That's okay. Get the point, and you get the truth bomb as well. That is completely bizarre. But that's, I mean, there's so many points where you feel like that in this story. Okay, the agency, what agency, and you know this one, of course, what agency studied the World Trade Center collapse?
You are talking about the National Institute of Standards and Technology, also known as NIST. Truth bomb, although they are the initial organization to look at 1 and 2, as you know, there was much more of a demand right away, because initially the theory out there that was put out there was it was a gradual collapse, a pancake collapse was what they had put out there initially. And then they reversed that in many senses because they knew that jet fuel only burned so hot, and they could not acknowledge things like the molten steel and the temperatures that I did. So with 1 and 2, they only describe how the steel is weakened to a point, collapse initiates, and then they call it global collapse. So everything from the initial collapse is not described in their scientific papers, which ignored a ton of evidence that Kevin Ryan and others have put out there from underwriters' laboratories that did many of the experiments. Now, multi-truth bomb, NIST would have to come in many years later. I think it was 7 years later they put their report out on Building 7. I think it was right around 7 years. So NIST came out and also did the official version of what happened at Building 7, where initially, again, they had talked about a collapse due to explosions in the boiler room. Okay, so they had, supposedly these large-scale explosions. Barry Jennings, a survivor from Building 7, actually commented on that and said it was total trash. Well, again, they would come back and they would revise that initial finding, and they would say
just a little bit, just a wafer thin tweak.
Yes, they would say that the damage from towers 1 and 2 caused, I believe, up to a third of the base of the building of World Trade Center to be, quote unquote, scooped out. And it is from that scoop out and damage that this building collapsed in on itself, a 47-story skyscraper that was also the spook house of New York City.
Unbelievable. NIST, you're quite right. I think it was Arthur C. Bement got put in charge of them. Everything they did, everything they needed to do. They were the guys who could do everything, get away with it because no one was going to ask them any questions. It's a lot like the Royal Society was how that was used during COVID over here. Okay, just to say, next one. What 2001 law was passed after 9/11?
I mean, if you're talking about the Patriot Act, that would be the huge one. But as I stated, there were numerous ones that came in rapid succession, although that was the quickest one with almost no debate and clearly the vast majority of Congress and Senate not reading the bill whatsoever.
You're an expert at the top of your game on this stuff. So give me something special about the Patriot Act, something to go away with. And the people.
Section 802 of the Patriot Act is extremely broad in the regard that it basically says, and this is the first time that you're putting U.S. citizens outside of constitutional law, but basically describes any entity that is able to cause social change or attempt to cause that social change through coercion. I mean, I'd have to read it again, but Section 802 of the Patriot Act essentially could encompass any American citizen of any level of descent. And this was the precursor to not only things like the National Defense Authorization Act, but also departments like Homeland Security that did not exist prior to 9/11.
Excellent. Okay. Next question. That's good. You get a good truth bomb there. Fantastic. Next question. What agency was created post 9/11 for security?
Well, that would be the Department of Homeland Security, or as I like to call it, the Department of Security. Now,
the Department of what? Sorry, I was saying mum over the top of that, so I missed it. What did you say?
The Department of Deutschland Security. Oh, okay. So, for those that don't know, truth bomb. The Homeland was very, very, very invoked after the Reichstag fire on Hitler's ascent to power. Many people have speculated that indeed was a false flag and given evidence and rightfully compared it to 9/11. On top of that, when we talk about Homeland Security, a guy named Michael Chertoff would become the head of Homeland Security. And
you don't want to trust Michael Chertoff. He's a neocon.
Michael Chertoff, prior to that, was a deputy director of the FBI, who'd actually been around, obviously, there for a long time. A lot of people forget that Robert Mueller cut his teeth on 9/11, at least as the director. Again, he had been there a long time, but was installed in short order, I think within 2 weeks prior to 9/11. And Chertoff, specifically, was contacted.
Most evil-looking man in the world. There is no one who looks more evil than Michael Chertoff.
Doesn't look great. Okay, Michael Chertoff heavily invested in the movement that would become successful to get body scanners in all of airports, so beyond the TSA. And Chertoff would actually attack and dissuade FBI whistleblowers, including Robert Wright, Barry Carmody, and others, when they were going to come and discuss a thing called Operation Vulgar Betrayal, where they had the bin Laden network's money moving through a guy named Yassin Qadi. And Chertoff specifically said, we don't want to hear about conspiracy theories. That is a quote. You can go watch that in my film, Fabled Enemies. Robert Wright and the others were basically taken off of their FBI duties and then made into pencil pushers.
What wasn't Chertoff later Alliance for Securing Democracy out of the German Marshall Fund?
I believe so. Oh, that guy was so privatized post Homeland Security. You could not. Again, he had his fingers in so many pies. And a truth bomb. When 9/11 truth started to take off in a manner where the mainstream media had to address it, an individual named Benjamin Chertoff was the one that was heading up, along with James Meggs and David Dunbar, a Popular Mechanics smear piece. Now, early on, it was asked whether or not they were related. Benjamin Chertoff's mother is quoted as saying that Benjamin Chertoff and them were, of course, they know each other, they're cousins. Benjamin Chertoff would also be used in the Debunking Jason Bermas History Channel special on 9/11 that aired on the 5th anniversary of 9/11, where you can see myself, Dylan, Corey, and people like Benjamin Chertoff and James Meggs.
Incredible. And that's a great extra point. I just want to add in as well something that links you and I. You were one of the first, and every single one of those videos got removed from YouTube. I can't really mention her name on here. The big J word, you know who I'm talking about, the Yunker. I mean, she has been constantly having my work taken down for 6 years. Well, when I had written the first article and it showed her investing in Carbine 911 with Ehud Barak, Jeffrey Epstein, etc., when that article came out, it messed up their plans. They had to change their entire board, and they brought on Michael Chertoff. So there you go. The guy who gets brought on to handle the big cases. And I actually got him a job in that sense to an extent, didn't I? So that's good. You helped me with that. Thank you. Thank you. We both helped Michael Chertoff get a job. Okay, right. Next one. Here we go. What commission investigated the 9/11 attacks?
Well, that would be the 9/11 Commission. Thomas Keane and Lee Hamilton would be the heads of that commission. Robert Zelikow would kind of be the overseer of that commission in the sense that Zelikow was oversight. Those were the two heads of the commission. And then a lot of people, truth bomb, there was actually a commission inside the commission that got to see documents that nobody else were allowed to see within the commission. And Max Cleland not only resigned in anger from the commission because of this and said on Wolf Blitzer, Blitzer goes, well, if you're among the commission members that gets to see these documents, would you stick into it? He goes, no, it's a scam. They're a scam on the American people. Cleland, to his credit, was a war veteran and didn't like any of it. So he resigned from that commission. And not only when they put out their paperwork, I would say that, number one, they left Building 7 out of it totally and completely, but they also left everything out about United 23 and many other things. In that documentary on TMZ, they have, Bob Carey. He was another member of the commission to kind of answer for why they didn't discuss United 23. And he said it was for a lack of resources. I just want to say this, even for the time period, they intentionally, so they could fall back on this excuse, underfunded that commission. So that could be part of why they didn't get to the bottom of it. And once again, in that documentary, they have their expert that looked at everything 9/11, and her excuse for them not talking about 23 was every time that they found something that didn't make sense or they couldn't figure out, they just moved on. Yeah. I mean, is that an investigation? No, sir. That is in fact, it was so much of a whitewash and a cover-up, truth bomb, that the New Yorker magazine, that was as establishment as it gets, literally had a cover story on the 9/11 whitewash where they had I believe it was a can of paint for the white, dipping people into it like little little characters, plastic things. I think it might have been a drawing. So, it could have been little people. And that on the cover. You pull that cover up, it shows you what a joke the 9/11 Commission was.
Earl Warren would have a smile on his face down there. He would indeed.
Truth bomb. Lee Hamilton, who helped start that. Just because you said that about the Warren Commission, Lee Hamilton was a part of the Warren Commission in his early days. Also, a part of the Iran-Contra Commission.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that'll wrap up in the bonus point too. Oh my Lord, that was the 1992 or 1991 one.
I think 91.
That was the one that I come up in the Pottinger supremacy that Pottinger was also heavily involved in because him and Cyrus Hashemi were the very start of working out what to do with Iran-Contra. Of course, Epstein's victim's lawyer, now dead. Okay, right. Let's keep going. That's an excellent point. Astounding to watch you go. I'm really enjoying this. What flight crashed in Pennsylvania on 9/11?
So that would be United 93.
Yeah, there you go.
And all right, so more truth bombs on there.
Go on.
We discussed the wide debris field. We also discussed some of the evidence that was left around. At the time, the coroner, who then recanted, initially said that when he got there, he had expected to, find dead bodies, but there were no dead bodies there at the time. Another truth bomb about United 93, some of the phone calls were supposedly cell phone calls that have been highly contested. In the film Loose Change, we discussed real-time voice morphing technology that the Pentagon then had openly. And Johnny, today, I could hit a little button right here, and I could be talking to you as though I were the Musker
himself, like this. I mean, it's not perfect, and it's not that great, but it is now commercially available. So those that think
that there is no possibility that that was in use on 9/11 really don't know.
Wow, it's almost like he's in me butt. Okay, excellent. Right. How many planes were hijacked on 9/11?
Oh, okay. So this is the AI answer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah. The AI answer is going to say 4.
Yeah, 4 hijacked planes.
So now let me give the real answer there. So on top of that, we've discussed truth bomb. We've already discussed United 23 and the fact that they found weapons on a multitude of planes that day, outside of even United 23 and the flight next to him. Time magazine reported on that again shortly after the attacks. However, when we're talking about phantoms or other hijackings that were on the radar, it appears to be 20 plus. Mm-hmm. So once again, you can actually go to the 9/11 Commission hearings, and this was included in, I believe, both Loose Change Final Cut and A Fabled Enemies. But Richard Myers, who was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time, had to confirm, quote unquote, we fought many phantoms that day. Mm-hmm. So once again, they were following hijackings that were on the radar, but not necessarily hijacked or real aircraft at all.
That is a very interesting, good truth bomb there. Excellent. That is a very interesting one. What was the mayor of New York? This is how AI has phrased it. Yeah. What was the mayor of New York during 9/11? They're not classing him as a human.
So what was he?
What was it? What type of horrible creature?
Former prosecutor that had also hosted Saturday Night Live
in New York,
of New York City, also dressed in drag on Saturday Night Live. I would also say that Rudy Giuliani has surprised me in the sense that he has now commented on Building 7 directly. And one of the things that people do not know about Rudy Giuliani is that his right-hand man was a guy named Michael Hess. He was the city corporation counsel on 9/11. And he was actually blown up in Building 7, going to the 23rd floor with Barry Jennings. He went on television that day. When they got down to the 8th floor, there was an explosion. Now, that's not just Barry Jennings talking to Jason Bermas and Dylan Avery. Michael Hess literally said that on the day of the attacks, and then both of them were rescued by the fire department. Rudy Giuliani acknowledged that Michael Hess was also in the building and that had indeed occurred. Off air, Rudy Giuliani, who also knew that there were all sorts of Central Intelligence Agency documents in Building 7, essentially said to me that he did not believe it was a controlled demolition because of those documents. But then he said if they were trying to destroy things and cover things up, then maybe the possibility was there. What we both agreed on was the fact that you had CIA snipers on the roofs surrounding Ground Zero from all the documentation that had been blown up and now was strewn out publicly, and they had to retrieve that documentation.
Holy hell in a handbag. Now, I can tell you, I've talked to Rudy Giuliani as well. And it was just after, it was a month after, less than a month after I'd released a series of documentaries about the Pottinger stuff. And Rudy Giuliani, when he was in New York, he was actually back in the 80s when they were looking at prosecuting people. They looked at whether to prosecute Stanley Pottinger for his involvement in Iran-Contra, his central involvement in Iran-Contra, and they decided eventually he went off to Mexico, disappeared, it all died down, and afterwards, you know, you had these sort of like commissions, that the October Surprise Commission and stuff, and then everything got laid to rest and everybody got off with it. But Rudy Giuliani, when I spoke to him, I actually asked him straight. It was on an X space, a Mario Narthwell one of the Epstein X spaces, and I asked him why they let Pottinger off, and he said he couldn't remember. But I don't believe him at all. I don't believe him. he remembers what he wants to remember.
Well, you know, Truth Bomb. The police commissioner Bernard Carrick at the time ended up being a pretty corrupt individual that actually served prison time, but after the fact, just as connected to, I would say, the conservative establishment as you possibly could be, and got kind of cushy gigs within think tanks that were the tune of six figures and more.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. You get a truth bomb for what you said about Rudy Giuliani. You got it right. What organization monitored air defense on 9/11?
That's the NRO. That is the National Reconnaissance Office. And NORAD. National Reconnaissance Office and NORAD. Let me say something, Truth Bomb, about the National Reconnaissance Office. The National Reconnaissance Office was not acknowledged to be a thing, okay, for 20 plus years of its existence. And when I talk about the NRO and the NORAD tapes, for instance, we as independent journalists, the Loose Change crew, were the first to get those tapes outside of Vanity Fair, where they were saying they had done a piece. Basically, Vanity Fair did a piece trying to debunk the war games and essentially saying the tapes proved nothing and the war games were over. And then we were actually in there as the first internet blockbuster, but portrayed as conspiracy theorists. I think within 3 months of that, we got those things and then started airing the communications. And those communications, again, in slight, appear in Fabled Enemies.
Excellent. That's brilliant. You get the extra point. Amazing. What airlines operated the planes that hit the Twin Towers?
Oh, well, again, American and United were the two airlines that suffered the hijackings that we saw on 9/11, but there is speculation we had others.
I'm going to go on to the next one. What famous call to action was said on Flight 93?
There it is. Todd Beamer. Hello, Mom. This is your son, Todd Beamer. Let's roll. And let's roll. And let's roll was that mantra utilized not only by the Bush administration, but as I just said, they made a Hollywood movie. It was the first Hollywood movie on the spectrum of 9/11. Later on, Oliver Stone would do World Trade Center. Neither, of course, would delve into the quote-unquote conspiracy theory or questioning angle. And once again, I never watched either, only little clips. But let's roll. Todd Beamer, United 93. Paul Greengrass is the guy behind the Bourne Identity series.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know about the Bourne Identity series, I'm not telling you that there isn't a lot of fiction in there. But I would actually encourage people to watch that, because that really lets the cat out of the bag on how a lot of these black operations work and how heartless and soulless some of these assassinations and killings can actually go down.
And before you watch the Bourne Identity, Supremacy, and Ultimatum, you should go over to Newspace. You should read the Pottinger Identity, the Pottinger Supremacy, and the Pottinger Ultimatum first. And then you'll see the similarities in the real world CIA to what was that going on over there too. Lots and lots of stuff. Anyway, okay, next one. We got 3 questions left. This has been a fantastic round. This, I have to say, this isn't a brilliant way to bring people a massive amount of knowledge and to show people the direct conflict of the narrative. And there is no better person, I think I know, than you to do this about this very subject. So I've been looking forward, since I conceived of Truth Bomb, this round that we come to the end of now, and you being the person I'm talking to, was something that I conceived of maybe 6-7 months ago, and I thought, this is the type of thing that I want, and I want to be able to ask you the question. So I'm very happy that you've joined me, Jason. I'm very happy you're here. I think this is a really good thing, and what you're doing is amazing all throughout your career, all throughout. Just want to say that. Where was President Bush during the 9/11 attacks?
He was down in Florida, obviously at that school, Truth Bomb. There is some evidence to suggest that there may have been a hit team in Florida to possibly assassinate Bush Jr. that day, and they were arrested. They were posing as a film crew. A lot of people are very well aware of the My Pet Goat story that he was reading. There are some coinky-dinks with, I believe it's plain, hit, steal, that they are reciting with the children there. They're reading the words on there, which is unnerving. But Andy Card, his chief of staff, is the one that whispers into his ear that we are under attack. I'll say this. There is a documentary out there. I think it is a History Channel documentary. I want to say it's over a decade old. I've often said that George Bush Jr. was running nothing that day and not in on any plot. At one point during 9/11, the quote-unquote hijackers or team, it's not really specified how, but these people have the codes for the Secret Service that day. And one of them says, Angel is next. Angel was the code word for Air Force One. So as they were leaving on Air Force One, they were worried about sniper teams on the runway. They were worried about being knocked out of the sky. There was unease that they may have had even somebody on the inside within the plane. And then essentially Bush would go underground. Truth bomb. You know who was in the White House? Because George Bush wasn't on the morning of 9/11? His father, Daddy Bush, just happened to be in the White House that morning. And then I believe would leave for New York for a separate meeting. And I don't want to get the company he was meeting for. But again, in the White House on the morning of 9/11.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Excellent. Okay, 2 questions left. What group published the 9/11 Truth Movement's theories? Very interesting.
What
AI
group?
says this.
So I would imagine what he's talking about are the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, as they are like the only,
Correct.
I would say, official group that looks at the scientific analysis of the structures of 1, 2, and 7.
But they've been going hard for a long time as well.
Absolutely. God bless Richard Gage, who's no longer with the organization, but was a driving force for that organization for years. And quite frankly, the way that he was kind of tossed out for calling out the COVID-19 84 nightmare as it happened should let you know how great he really is. Truth bomb. There were a few other organizations prior to that were very involved in 9/11 Truth. One of them was, at the time, 9/11 Truth New York 9/11 Truth. And that's where myself, Dylan, and Corey initially would go down and actually screen loose change in the middle of New York City at some of these events, where a core group that included Truth Bomb, Luke Radowski, who would later create We Are Change, that again, Truth Bomb would do some of the most important work on 9/11.
I hope you know you're only getting 1 point for each of
That's
these.
fine. We'll take
I
one.
love it though. I love it though. But I just want to tell you that. Yeah, go on. Keep going.
Well, I'm just saying that Luke Radowski, among others, his work on 9/11 is featured in my film, Fabled Enemies, where you had Joe Biden asked about his meeting with the head of the Pakistani ISI and the funding of the hijackers, which he admits to. And he goes, nobody knew they were funding the hijackers. Get a life. He also interviewed a man named Bo Dietl. Bo Dietl was kind of this cop that had a movie made about him. I believe the movie starred Stephen Baldwin. You might want to ask Bazed Lit Analyzer about it. And Bo Dietl, very much in that New York police scene, he had a friend named John O'Neill. And he talked about John O'Neill and the fact that John O'Neill had left his post, I believe, at the FBI. This was an FBI agent that was part of the bin Laden squad. And he was worried about a terrorist attack, becomes the head of World Trade Center security. I think a lot of people say in the days, he took his post on the day of 9/11. Not exactly true. In fact, the Dark Overlord documents out there really start getting into Kroll and the intricacies of the privatized security and John O'Neill's role there. But O'Neill was killed on 9/11 after calling it out and taking that job, worried that they were a target and bin Laden was the prime suspect.
Wow. Well, there you go. You get a bonus point for that. There's so much there going on as well. You get the truth bomb point even. There's so much going on. It is really amazing how the truth movement formed around this one event mainly, and that coincided. And I don't think there was probably any coincidence. They knew the era of fifth generation warfare was upon us, and that's what we were heading towards. So I wouldn't be surprised if the 9/11 suited so many narratives or so many different objectives. Okay, one last question here. What policy allowed preemptive strikes post 9/11?
Policy.
This is a strange one that they've worded it like this.
Let me see. I mean, again, I don't think it's the NDAA. I don't think it's the Military Commissions Act. Let me try to think of what the.
I think it's a hard one because it's.
Let me think for just a second. What policy was preemptive strikes? Man, that's a tough one. I want to say something like Rumsfeld saying the absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. You know what? I'm going to have to concede. That one's not coming to me.
I think this is a hard one. I don't think AI has done a good job. It said the Bush Doctrine, which I think is the basic idea of all like that was under the Bush Doctrine, but it wasn't actually a policy in my official policy. It was just, I think, what it was called as a title. So, okay, right. One last final truth bomb, 9/11, to tie off the round succinctly. What would you like to say? You're the guy who has so much information on it. Try and get something that kind of like encompasses the whole thing, or something now that you think is really important.
Well, folks, I would say this, that along with everything that I've said right here, and I'm not claiming to be the only authority or that I get everything right, is that unfortunately 9/11 Truth long ago was infiltrated with fantastical, nonsensical theories that not only distract from the international intelligence operation and the different groups that were involved, and we've named, the Israelis, the Pakistanis, the continuity of government, aka shadow government, and military programs going on here, and even the 9/11 Commission to whitewash and cover it up. But then you get into things like space lasers or no planes, and I've been around for the genesis of all of that. Now, look, again, I'm not saying I get things wrong, but I stick to what I can prove, and I try to have discernment. I always tell people, and we've been saying it for years, and there's a reason that this term was demonized during COVID 1984, was do your own research. And that means trying to get as much as of the base material, the actual PDFs, the actual hearings, the long form videos, and fact check. You're the fact checker, not NewsGuard, not X, not community notes, not Facebook. You're the fact checker. And look, there are always going to be pieces of evidence that you're not exactly sure because it's only been written about, and you've got to take that outlet's word for it, that are contrarian to yet another piece of outlet. I always say, look at both of them, report on both of them, and then use your discernment to speculate which one you believe more because of the other evidence that surrounds it. So that's really with everything. But with 9/11 in particular, because I'm going to leave on this one last thing, our entire foreign and domestic policy today, from the things that we talked about via the Patriot Act, via Homeland Security, into the drone technology and the airport surveillance systems that we all discussed, are based on the official narrative of 9/11 that has been completely and totally eviscerated.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. You're an amazing man. You're an amazing man. Bermas is a legend of the scene, that's for sure. But don't let that scare you, Bazed. It's your round. I'm going to ask you 18 general knowledge questions generated by honest and truthful AI on the movie Apocalypse Now. Now, don't be afraid to truth bomb. You are competing with fire. When competing with fire, you pull out flamethrowers and fight fire with fire. That's what I think you do. So let's do this. Are you ready?
The flamethrower is Deer Hunter. So,
yeah, true enough.
Another Vietnam movie. All right, yeah, let's go.
Okay. Napalm for this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bazed, your specialist subject. Round 18 questions on Apocalypse Now. What novel inspired Apocalypse Now?
Yeah, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad.
Correct.
And TRUTHBOMB. English was not his first language. It was his third language. And Heart of Darkness is very close to the film Apocalypse Now. And here's I know there's one point, but here's another truth bomb for this film. Marlon Brando, who was paid $1 million a day to appear in this movie, had not read the novel when he showed up. So he had to have it read to him in a canoe by Francis Ford Coppola on set, taking up like 2 of the day. So he's paid like $2 million to be read the novel on set.
Why would you not want that life, Marlon Brando? Excellent, good, brilliant truth bomb there. Okay, so what is Captain Willard's mission?
To terminate with extreme prejudice. He has to find Colonel Kurtz, who they play a recording of him saying, "A snail crawling along the edge of a straight razor. It's my dream. It's my nightmare." And he was a good man, a good, honest man. But like all great men, he had gone completely insane. Yes, sir. Obviously insane.
Amazing. Yeah, fantastic. I got anything on? I mean, that's you get the point.
Well,
you got anything on?
Yeah, the truth bomb with this is that Colonel Kurtz, as played by Apocalypse Now, is really sort of based on a few different characters. One of whom is Lieutenant Colonel Bo Gritz, and I sort of read the film as a Phoenix program type of film where Kurtz is a Green Beret who is training a Montagnard army, and this really speaks to a program of targeted assassination within Vietnam, and you can read that in Doug Valentine's Phoenix program book. But that the assassination of our own people tends to be something that is overlooked in a lot of instances, and this is why Apocalypse Now is especially it seems like we're just talking about a movie, but it's relevant because there's a background there in Bermas's frame, which was about madness, and madness and truth are some of the themes in Apocalypse Now, and certainly speak to all the shenanigans that go on in terms of U.S. intelligence operations, which is what sets up the whole film.
Sure. I have to say, I'm glad I asked you if you had a truth bomb about that, because that was awesomeness. That was exactly what I wanted to hear. Because that is, yeah, that is. Okay, so what river do Willard's crew navigate?
It's called the Nung River, but it's a fictional river. But they are going all the way up the river into Cambodia. And of course, this is the truth bomb with this is that is especially relevant to Heart of Darkness, because the whole book, Heart of Darkness, the novella, really is going into the Congo. So they just switch continents, and they're going all the way up the river to say that Colonel Kurtz is like at the source of the river, and everything sort of flows from him as if he's this sort of demigod character.
What I like at the moment is that you've bossed the first 3 questions and you're competing against Jason Bermas on 9/11. I mean, that's gonna. I mean, you're gonna. You might make it, but you might get more points than it if you continue like this. I mean, you could be bossing it by the end of it. That's impressive. Okay, what year was Apocalypse Now released?
It was released in 1979. It took, I think, 16 months. The truth bomb is that it took about 16 months to film the movie, but it was plagued with problems. There was a typhoon. Everybody who's seen Hearts of Darkness, the documentary about the making of it, knows this. And Francis Ford Coppola famously said when he won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, "Our movie is not about Vietnam. It is not like Vietnam. It is Vietnam." So it was released in 1979. It was nominated for, I think, 8 Oscars. It won two Oscars for Best Sound and Best Cinematography. But it was nominated for Best Picture and a couple other. But it almost bankrupted Coppola, and including, the entire set was destroyed. This might be another question coming up, but Harvey Keitel was originally Willard, and then they had to retract him and then film all of his scenes over. He filmed a lot of the movie, and also the helicopters used in the film, because it was filmed in the Philippines, were when the shots of the helicopters flying in, the helicopters turned around and flew off for some sort of insurgency that was going on at the time, and then came back on set.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. All right, okay, excellent. That's good. Extra point there. I'm going to call it a bonus point rather than truth bomb. What animal is sacrificed in the film?
There's a water buffalo.
Yeah, correct.
That's sacrificed at the end, and the truth bomb with that is that occurs simultaneous with the movie begins where it ends, and so we have a superimposed shot of a stone idol that's with Willard sort of side by side, juxtaposed against him, with the song "The End" playing by the Doors at the beginning of the movie. That recurs at the end, and then the shot of the water buffalo, the sacrifice of the water buffalo, occurs while Kurtz is getting cut down with a machete by Willard. And there's also another scene in the film where when they're on the battlefield, and we see Francis Ford Coppola in the film, and he's saying, keep rolling," like as if he's an on-site journalist. And they're doing a Eucharist ceremony, and then in the background there's a water buffalo being lifted up above them, as if there's an idol that is transcending the moment of the service, because the idol in the film is typically war.
Wow, excellent. Yeah, that's a point for the correct answer. A point for the truth bomb. What song is the next question? What song opens Apocalypse Now?
Well, the Doors, "The End" opens the movie and closes the movie, and it's not just the end. It is, it's an alternate version of the end, and that they didn't include on the eponymous Doors album, because it has the Oedipal verses about his mother and father in it. And of course, the truth bomb that everybody knows with this is that this has to do with Vietnam, because of course Jim Morrison's dad, Admiral Morrison, was the admiral at the Gulf of Tonkin affair. So
indeed he was. Indeed he was. Excellent point on top.
Truth. I'll just say extra for that part. An extra is that one thing that's interesting is that Jim Morrison always denied. He would always state that his mother and father had died, and that this he sort of intertwines it with the legend when they were in New Mexico of where they saw a truckload of Indians scattered on Dawn's highway bleeding, and ghosts crowd the young child's fragile eggshell mind, and that one of the souls of the Indians just kind of jumped into his soul. And he sort of uses that as his own mythology to say that his parents didn't exist. But one of the conspiracies about Jim is that Jim died at age 27, July 3rd, 1971 in Paris. And there was the signature on the death certificate is false. They can't find the coroner who did that. There was no autopsy in the first place, but who's the guy who signed the death certificate. And that most people realize that he probably died of heart failure because, as Marianne Faithfull stated, Marianne Faithfull was going out with the Italian count who was the
she was going out with everyone at some point or another.
Well, but her boyfriend was the Italian count who you see in the Doors movie, who's getting his girlfriend Pam addicted to heroin, and that he was also the guy who in the Rolling Stones book Exile on Main Street, he was the one who supplied the pink. It was a specific type of pink tie heroin to Keith Richards at the old SS Gestapo villa where they recorded Exile on Main Street, and that he was the one who supplied Jim. And this happened. He apparently purchased it in the bathroom at the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus Club in Paris, and then so he probably OD'd, and they put him back in a bathtub or put him in ice back in his apartment. But some speculate that this may have been targeted, and it may have been some sort of retaliation for his father's events at the Gulf of Tonkin.
That is a massive truth bomb point. I gotta say that I didn't think you were going to say he supplied him with heroin. I thought you were going to say he supplied him with Mars bars. But anyway,
he did. Jim did that on purpose, because he said there's nothing wrong with being a large mammal, like a tank. And I actually think that a lot of the narrative about Jim Morrison is probably made up with him being, I think he was probably an alcoholic, but there's a huge narrative that occurs with Jerry Hopkins, the guy who wrote No One Here Gets Out Alive, to say that he was against drugs. He was just into the boomer thing of, acid and all this stuff. But I think he may have been he probably was a heroin addict, at least, that is possible because his girlfriend Pam was, and because they were in these circles.
Pam. Ooh, Polyphene Pam. He looks so good.
Pamela
She
Corson.
looks like a man. There you go. Okay,
you want to hear one more crazy thing with Pam Corson? This is crazy.
Okay, then.
Pamela Corson, Jim's girlfriend Pamela Corson, who died 3 years after him of a heroin overdose, was also her boyfriend. After that, became Danny Sugarman. Danny Sugarman co-wrote No One Here Gets Out Alive, and Danny Sugarman's girlfriend was that Fawn. Her name's Fawn something. She was the secretary of Oliver North in the Iran-Contra hearings.
Wow.
Yeah,
oh
that
my
weird?
God. Yeah, that's pretty bad. How is it? You get a feeling though that and this is from my own research, as you go back to the time when things like the CIA were being created, and intelligence agents were really forming their trade properly in the modern world, and they end up mixing in with all of this high-level elite crowd, and then after that, they all stay roughly in the same high-level elite crowd. So as soon as you get rich enough or wealth, or you get a bit of wealth, you end up hanging around in circles with people who are going to tell you fantastical stories. I've experienced a tiny bit of that myself from my time, that you end up in rooms with people where you're like hearing stories you shouldn't really hear, and you're realizing, oh, these are different people than the people I know. Well,
Jim grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, and his father's obviously part of the MI6 and all this stuff. But a lot of these people, the CIA people, especially in the mid 20th century, and coming out of OSS, are part of the old boy network. So they're all in a sort of private school network already. And then there's the aspect of the glitterati and like, think of the Bernstein parties. After I did a whole analysis of Tom Wolfe's book, Radical Chic and Mau Mauing the Flatcatchers, which talks about the Leonard Bernstein. Is it Leonard? I think it's Leonard Bernstein parties, the Upper East Side parties, where you have people like George Plimpton, who was the editor of Paris Review, and you have all these sort of glitterati type of well-to-do chic people who love mixing with people from the other side of the tracks. They love mixing, they love slumming it with criminals and with the sort of dark side. And so that's a natural sort of place for a lot of these CIA people to sort of intermingle.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of those are the same parties that people like John Brockman went and hung around with as well before creating Edge. Okay, anyway, let's who played Lieutenant Colonel Kilgore?
That's Robert Duvall. You want to wait around here for 6 hours? Safe to surf this. What does that mean, Harry? Well, it's pretty hairy, sir. It's pretty hairy. Harry, safe to surf this beach. Ha ha.
And of course,
Robert
he must
Duvall.
have loved. Francis Ford Coppola must have loved Robert Duvall because he was in he played as like a really important character in The Godfather.
Yes, and Robert Duvall is still around. I have a mutual friend of his. I think he lives on a horse farm in Northern Virginia. But he is so solid in that movie. He's one of those guys, it says in Apocalypse Now that he's one of those guys who has a weird light around him. He knew he wasn't going to get so much as a scratch. And he really, he was nominated for an Oscar for supporting actor for Apocalypse Now. And of course, he's got the famous Charlie Don't Surf and the I love the smell of napalm in the morning speech. So
excellent, brilliant. Yeah, Charlie Don't Surf, indeed. It just makes me want to listen to The Clash at that point. Okay, yeah, that's an excellent extra point. I call it a bonus point. What activity does Kilgore prioritize?
Surfing. Kilgore loves surfing, which is why he goes 6 foot pink. Huh? What do you mean pink? He loves surfing because he co-ops Lance the surfer. He's either you surf or you fight, but he also loves flying in the beers and the barbecue for an all night festival with his guys. His guys know they can count on him, so he loves having a little beach party. Long dung wop or dop. Right, he says.
I've known people like that, though. I can dig people like that.
He's kind of a Patton-esque character in this. Patton also has a Virginia connection. He went to Virginia Military Institute, and I think he went to VMI. But he has a Virginia connection, and he, you can tell that Kilgore is different from Kurtz because Kilgore is a type of guy. He's the type of guy who his father served, his grandfather, his great grandfather, and so this is just his war. And he says that's why he has that speech where he says, "Someday this war is going to end," which indicates he doesn't want it to end. He loves it.
Yeah, indeed. You have to explain that though to us. Sometimes that's people who don't watch the films because that's amazing and it brings new light. It's just going to make me want to watch Apocalypse Now. Okay. What does Kurtz, that's a good bonus point. What does Kurtz call his followers?
His children. Correct. They're all his children, man. They're all his children. He's out with his people, man. He feels good with his people. He's with himself, man. Yeah.
I'm going to go on to the next question, but I am for the combination of many different laughs. I'm going to give you a laughter point because those impressions have been fantastic. You definitely get that. Okay, what weapon does Willard use to kill Kurtz? You know this one, obviously.
Yeah, it was the machete. He uses the machete to chop him down. Yeah, while he's in the middle of a speech about truth, of course. Because Kurtz
gets chopped down. That's how every man speaking about truth gets chopped down.
Yeah, and it speaks in the film to the primal nature of the killing. It becomes personal. He's not he orders chef, but he gets decapitated by Kurtz to call in the airstrike if he doesn't succeed. So he says, PBR Street Gang, almighty, call in the airstrike if I don't come back. But he ends up, mano y mano, the man in the black pajamas, because Kurtz is wearing black pajamas. He's gone native. So he strikes him down from his sort of pedestal while he's talking about truth and this sort of primal in the primal nature of his assassination it's ultra personal. And Kurtz calls for that. Kurtz, I expected someone like you. What did you expect? He says.
Yeah. That's excellent. That's an excellent bonus point. Okay, what is the film's cinematographer's name?
And Vittorio Storaro.
Yeah, Vittorio Storaro.
Vittorio Storaro. Vittorio Storaro he's a frequent collaborator of Francis Ford Coppola, but I think he also photographed The Last Emperor. I think he's a very famous, yeah, which also won Best Picture. He's a very famous cinematographer, and he won the Oscar for it.
I'm not going to give you an extra point there, but I am going to say that is that is one of the best movies I've ever seen. Last Emperor, especially for the cinematography, it is astounding, completely astounding. Okay, who plays Clean in the film?
Mr. Clean. That's he's Larry Fishburne in the credits, but it's of course Lawrence Fishburne. Please get that man a gun. It's Larry Fishburne. He comes from some South Bronx shithole, and I think this really put the spark in him. And Larry Fishburne's interesting because he's very young in the film, and
pre-blue pill.
Yeah, and he's he's a teenager. And so he's also the one who carries out, by the way, what is sort of supposed to relate to the My Lai massacre, but in this it's a boat. So he machine guns a bunch of people on a boat, and he has no sort of feelings about it. And he is supposed to represent youth in Vietnam, and of course he is from the Bronx. He's a young black kid, and the way that race is presented in the film is very interesting and probably extremely truthful. But he's young and is supposed to indicate or convey that whatever he had faced back home, this was supposed to sort of give him some discipline, but he ends up getting speared by the natives. So
that is fantastic. I'm going to give you the extra point, though. I didn't hear part of that because my earpiece popped out halfway through, but I'm sure it was pretty good. What does Willard smoke in Saigon?
What does he smoke in Saigon? He
says, what does Willard smoke in Saigon?
I think he smokes Winston. No, he smokes a Marlboro when Dennis Hopper gives it to him. When he smokes opium, it's on the French plantation scene in the Redux version. But he's smoking. He's smoking cigarettes. I think he smokes Winston's for part of the film.
Okay, it says he smokes marijuana. That's what it said.
Not in the film. He definitely does not.
Then it's going to make you angry because that's what AI said. And
that's crazy. That's crazy. There's not crazy a single AI. That's crazy. There's not a crazy shot of him smoking weed in the whole movie. In fact,
AI crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go on to the next one because AI be crazy. What music plays during the helicopter attack? We all know this one.
That's Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries.
Yep.
And the truth bomb with this is, of course, that this is supposed to engender some sort of fear in the natives when they're riding in, like Valkyries, because the helicopters are overriding the sea, and then they're gonna ride over the battlefield, which is what the Valkyries do in Wagner. But this is also a tactic that was part of PSYOPs and that has been continuously used. Remember, there's the famous story about Manuel Noriega, and they got Noriega out of his house by riding around in helicopters and blasting Guns N' Roses and Skid Row, which I think is bullshit. Yeah. It was probably ultra low frequency, ultra high frequency sound warfare, not Wagner. Or not. Why would Skid Row's 18 in Life or Boys Gone Wild make Noriega leave his house? That doesn't make sense.
I know. Be like, woo, lock the doors. We've got a party. Indeed. Crazy. That's good. Yeah, okay, that's a good extra point, bonus point, we'll call it. What is the film again, they say, what is the film's sound designer? If AI sees humans as a thing.
The sound designer was Coppola's father. He was the one who did the score for the film. And it's
you know what his name was?
Is it Carmine Coppola?
No. I think this might be someone rather than because this is. I'll tell you, I'm not going to give you the correct for this. I'm going to say Walter Murch is what they say.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought Walter Murch was the editor,
composer, or sound editor.
Okay, he was the sound. Okay, he's the sound editor. That's a weird question because
or sound designer. This guy.
Yeah, because Coppola's dad is the one who did the weird synthesizer soundtrack.
That's a good bonus
film,
point.
Which was groundbreaking. But I guess Walter Murch did the sound design.
I like
or the sound editing. Yeah.
Right, we got 3 left. Then, who plays Colonel Lucas?
Is that Harrison Ford?
Yes, correct.
Harrison Ford. So a truth bomb about this one, Harrison Ford. It's one of his first roles, and the weird connection is that Harrison Ford was a roadie for the Doors before, and he's in one of the documentaries about the Doors. I think it's when they're playing the concert, and he's about to they show the Roadhouse Blues sequence. He's in the background. He was. I think he's older than Jim Morrison, but he was a carpenter, but he was also a roadie for the Doors. And in the scene where that takes place with him in I-Corps, he like drops his documents on the ground. They kept rolling. It's because I think he was sick that day. Harrison Ford is always getting sick. Like he had food poisoning in the scene with the gun, in Indiana Jones. And then this one, I think he was sick, but also if he's Colonel, of course, he's Lucas, which is an obvious nod to George Lucas, because George Lucas was friends with Francis Ford Coppola, and George Lucas had an early treatment of what would later become Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. And of course, Harrison Ford by this time would have already appeared in 1977 Star Wars.
Yeah, he'd
appeared in a previous movie too.
Yeah, he'd appeared in Star Wars, which was kind of accidental. And he'd been in American Graffiti, but this movie was, he had a very small scene in this one, but I think when it was filmed, though, it was contemporary with Star Wars, so they didn't know what this was going to become.
Right. Okay. So that's a good extra point you get there, bonus point. What is the film's editing style?
I don't know what it's referring to. There's a term. There's a term for the editing style. Is it cinema verite? I don't know.
It's non-linear editing.
Okay. Okay. It's not. It's not non-linear. The movie's not non-linear. The movie's actually linear. It's revolving, but it's not non-linear.
I can't tell you what AI is doing. I think it's smoking.
That's strange. That's weird because Pulp Fiction is like when you think of nonlinear filmmaking, you think of Pulp Fiction. We have cuts back to the story is in different time pieces that are intermingled, but Apocalypse Now is linear almost all the way through. That's weird.
Yeah, very strange. Okay, what is the film's Palme d'Or year?
Well, it was made in 1979, so the year would be 79 or 80.
You have to make a decision whether you decide on 79 or 80.
Palme
and
d'Or
your point will be relative to that as well.
Let's say the Cannes Festival is like in the summer. Let's say 79.
Oh, you did really well deducing.
Nice.
That was good deducing. Yeah,
Nice.
Correct. 1979. That's good. That's good. You get the point. Okay. So we've come to the end. Have you got one final truth bomb about Apocalypse Now?
Yes.
That's a comprehensive. Well, you had a really comprehensive round. I think you competed very well there. Go on.
Well, there's so much about Apocalypse Now, and I consider it's my favorite film. I think it's the greatest film of all time, and for a number of different reasons. This one really is so much different than, for instance, The Godfather and The Godfather 2, which are usually included in the greatest, usually top 5 greatest films of all time, like with AFI. And this one is usually like 20 or between 20 and 28. I consider this the greatest one because it is so unique. It's so revolutionary in terms of filmmaking. I think probably a lot of people who, have been in combat like the movie, but it's not really, like Coppola said, it's not really like a realistic experience of what Vietnam would have been. That would be more something like 1986's Best Picture, the Oliver Stone film, Platoon, or even Full Metal Jacket. But a couple of things about this. One is that the voiceovers were all written by Michael Hare, who wrote the book Dispatches, one of the best books about Vietnam. It takes a number of cues from different Vietnam era and military industrial people like Charles Beckwith and Bo Gritz. The Ears for Beers program and Phoenix program were both inform Apocalypse Now. I'm not sure if Francis Ford Coppola intended for those to be informative or if he even knew about them. But it doesn't matter, because with great art, we see that that it sort of taps into the vein of truth. And Brando had a total resurgence in terms of his popularity after this. Of course, he played Jor-El in Superman, where he was the highest paid actor. He showed up on set completely overweight and huge, and they had to shoot him in shadow, so he's in black pajamas instead, because Kurtz in Heart of Darkness is long and gaunt. He's lying on a litter, and he's described as like 7 feet tall, but he's lying prone on a litter. And many people who don't like the film consider it, they say that this guy's crazy. But what the movie is trying to point out is that Kurtz's character is hyper sane. So he has a monologue at the end where he says, they teach our young men to drop bombs on people, but they won't let them write the word fuck on their airplanes because it's obscene. In other words, the Vietnam War, from this guy's perspective, is that he was one of the top brass. He goes to JSOC, Mac V SOG. He becomes a special forces operator, and he sort of takes the war into his own hands. And the top brass finds something that, they didn't like what they're reading in terms of his plans, Operation Archangel and all these things. And really, Kurtz's point is that if you're going to go to war, that it has to be something that is full on and ruthless and all the way to the end to accomplish your mission, instead of something that plays on the sentiments of people and becomes overly political and is, saturated with sentiment and fit for television screens. And so I think that sort of mentality sort of is, again, a kind of, we diverge, and there's this dichotomy with those two like twin pillars in terms of how we view warfare, even right now, even to this day. And so it's a great film. It's really, really fantastic. And again, it's more truthful than I think realistic, but it's a spiritual movie about power and what power can lead to, and of course about what real power is, which is the people behind the scenes that send Willard on the mission in the first place. And I would really recommend reading Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness is one of the best novels ever written. It's Joseph Conrad. You can read it in an afternoon. And I'll just end with this, that in the novel, he describes, the speaker describes Kurtz as someone who had something to say, and he said it. He was a special being.
Oh, wow. That's hey, I have to say that was all of the way through impressive. Really, just I already love movies loads. I already have a massive interest in history and war, but you have like such a massive knowledge and recall. It's amazing. So yeah, I think you've done well in competing. On that, round 3, holy hell, Jason Bermas scored 14 points, 14 truth bombs. That's a crazy amount. 4 bonus points, no corruption points, of course, because he's Jason Bermas. He's a good boy. He gets a total of 32. Bazed Lit Analyzer scored 15 points, 7 truth bombs, 9 bonus points, 1 laughter point, totaling 34. So after 3 rounds, the scores are at 65, 66, which are extremely high-scoring rounds for sure. Bazed, if you had to vote, you have no choice. It's mandatory, with instant evaporation of your entire family if you refuse. Who would you choose to be king of the world, Elon Musk or King Paimon?
Well, definitely. If I had to choose, I got to choose, because I don't vote. I got to choose. It's definitely not Paimon, because Paimon's a damn literal demon.
Ah, well, it's a trick question, because they're the same guy.
Okay. All right.
You've been done. Jason, it's your turn. What color skin do you think Jesus should have when he gets back?
I think that Jesus Christmas should have a darker golden brownish appearance. Kind, like I like the way my nieces look. They're half black. My one niece got out in the sun this weekend, darkest I've ever seen her. I got a decent color going right now. But
you're beautiful.
Listen, my ass is whiter than a pasty Irishman in the rain. Let me just make that really clear. So listen, let's get it abroad. Let's do it like me. You want that nice dark brown tone, but maybe we get into the skivvies, not enough sunshine, maybe a little lighter. I don't know.
Definitely right. Well, if the second coming Jesus is the warrior king, who do you think will get his rod of righteousness first? Will it be the long-tongued liars or those midnight ramblers?
Maybe I hope it's the liars.
The gamblers or the
listen, I hope it's the liars. I try to be honest. I'm a bit of a midnight rambler myself.
Oh, you're in trouble, boy. You're in trouble. We enter the quick fire picture round this week, and it's called Who is This Dirty Chicken Fucker Anyway? I asked AI to make some of the most famous narrative manipulators on the planet into a representative of a famous fast food chain. It's up to our contestants to buzz in first whenever they recognize the famous face and say truth bomb for a chance to get it right. If you're wrong, the opportunity to steal and gain a second extra point is offered to their opponent. So get ready to play Who is This Dirty Chicken Fucker Anyway?
Truth bomb.
Push.
Who said truth bomb first, or did you just say?
You have to say truth bomb. You didn't say that.
I did.
That's your man W. That's your man W.
You got it. That's right.
That Henry Lee Lucas, he's a real good boy.
No,
I looked in Goody Pooch's eyes.
Yeah, good. Okay, you get the point there. You get the point. That is the man. This is a quick fire round, though, so we go straight on to the next one. Get ready to say truth bomb, Jason.
Truth bomb.
Truth bomb.
There you go. It worked. Jason, go on.
So that is obviously John Travolta with a Big Mac surrounding his lower half.
Well, I'll give you it, but he's having a wimpy. I'm not sure if these even exist anymore. They don't over in Britain, but still, he's got a wimpy. But it is John Travolta. You get a point for that. Okay, get ready to say truth bomb. Get ready.
Truth bomb.
Okay, there you are, Jason.
Is that Anne Hathaway?
It is. It is
Shakespeare's wife. Yeah, that's right.
Where is she? Do you know?
Geez, we were obviously at some kind of a diner. Is that Johnny Rockets?
No, it's Denny's. It's a Denny's.
Oh, that's not. I was at a Denny's this week. That's not a Denny's. How dare you?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's AI Denny's.
Yeah, AI Denny's can kiss my nuts.
She's not at Waffle House. There's nobody fighting in the background.
She's pretty sexy, though, isn't she? Yeah, AI Hathaway. I mean, she'll take out your brain while you're sleeping for sure. Okay, next one. Get ready to say truth bomb. As soon as you see it, you'll know this guy.
Truth bomb. That's Colin Powell.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's Colin Powell. And what is he dressed up
He's
as?
the Hamburglar.
I'm going to give you an extra point for the Hamburglar. It's true. He is the Hamburglar for sure. Okay, get ready. Get ready to say truth bomb. Here comes the next one.
Truth bomb.
Truth bomb.
He knows true love. Jason knows.
Yeah,
love.
I mean that is Condi, aka Condoleezza Rice, is.
You
nice.
were saying you love that dark skin. Would you marry Condoleezza Rice if she came to you now? No.
Not on the iciest day in Hades, sir.
And where is she hanging around? Where is she hanging around to? Can you see?
That's Hooters. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No, we already said it. Yeah, no, of course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wing me up.
Sorry. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Get ready to say truth bomb. Next one. Here we go.
Truth bomb.
Truth bomb.
That's I mean, that is obviously
that's Tom Cruise. That's the one.
Well, yeah, obvious Tom Cruise, and I would assume you said Taco Bell, even though that is not a Taco Bell.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. It is Tom Cruise at Taco Bell. Who actually said truth bomb first?
I did.
That was me. That was so me.
Replay. I guarantee it. Get out of here.
That was
Do
so
we have
funny. I
to-
ran like Tom Cruise to that truth bomb.
Wait a minute. At these times, Russell.
He's going with Russell. I'm going to send you the
Oh.
clip later. I taped this myself.
And sorry, I'm going to go to my producer, just a bloke who asked questions.
I've been betrayed.
And he has betrayed you, Jason, and says, Bazed Lit Analyzer nowadays, because he's got that far in the thing. He starts off based and ends up blazed. That's the
right.
way it goes. We know how it goes. Okay, you're going to get the point there. Sorry, Jason. I'm sorry. You got root. Okay, keep next one.
Truth bomb.
Truth bomb.
Yeah.
All right, I got that one, obviously. And I got the last one, by the way. I just want to say that. This is Rudy Giuliani,
Are you
McDonald's
going to
style.
do slow motion replay after this? So you
won't have
know
to
if
do
you
slow motion. I literally have it recorded. I'm going to send you the clip and base. I'm going to group chat you on X.
Yeah,
Especially if I've been daggered in the side, Caesar style. But
Yeah,
yes,
well,
there's
we'll see.
Rudy G.
Rudy G. Indeed, it is Rudy G. And no one knows. No one wants to say that name out
Serving
loud.
up a number 9 and a number 11 meal.
Yeah, out the back. He's a cone machine. That's where the ice cream comes from, baby.
No, that's broken.
Okay, next one.
Yeah.
Get ready. Get ready. Get ready to say truth bomb.
Truth bomb.
Damn.
Oh yeah.
That is my girl, Drew Barrymore.
Mhm.
Somebody who worked with Steven Spielberg to give you a little Bazed Lit Analyzer, because the man is a machine. But at a very, very young age, and one of the few Holly weirdos that had an extremely traumatic and sexually abusive childhood to make it through and be in the industry to this day.
Okay, so saying that,
Who was she
what's
married
the
to?
first thing-
She was married to Tom Green, among
Nice.
others. Hold on.
Nice.
He's not the only one, though. But I remember, listen, I'm a big Tom Green fan. And recently, Tom Green had a really fun documentary slash stand-up comic bit also come out at the same time. I encourage everybody to check it out.
Excellent, good. What is seeing as you answered that, Jason? Can you tell me what it is you notice about Drew Barrymore there?
That the twins probably aren't as nice as the AI picture
That's
today
from-
as they are in real
That's
life.
from when she was starring in the movie Poison Ivy with Tom Skerritt.
That and the wank eye. I mean, the eye.
Yeah,
is
okay,
wonked out.
okay. Wait, the reason why I asked you, because I guess that if you ask a man what you see there, the first thing they'll see is the boobs and not the cockeyed, like all the.
You got them both. I mean,
She got
but you'll always see the boobs first.
She got Donnie Darko made.
I mean, you were like, oh, those. She's got bonk boobs. Oh, and she's got bonk eyes too. Oh, yeah. Don't worry. It's just about being a man, and it's just.
She
about
got Donnie
being-
Darko made. Donnie Darko, one of the great, one of my favorite films. She was responsible for that.
Yep, producer.
I
She got it made. Mhm.
Main producer.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, amazing. Also, just a bloke who asks questions does point out that hair. Anybody notice that hair? It's not very symmetrical. It's like you've gone and they've cut half of her hair, and then she's like the barber's died or something. Oh, hairdresser. Sorry. Yeah. Who
Name
knows?
another famous Barrymore.
John Barrymore, also
There you
accused
go.
of being a high-level pedophile.
Oh, okay.
Lionel.
What's his name? What's his first name? We had Are you talking about when you say John Barrow? Are you talking about the one who used to present quiz shows on British TV?
John Barrymore,
Barrymore.
Douglas Fairbanks, and Errol Flynn were all sort of golden age Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah, there's I think just to progress question.
Sure.
Michael Barrymore is who I was thinking of.
Mhm.
Michael Barrymore used to present quiz shows on TV. Yeah, they found a dead gay guy floating in his swimming pool, and his career was over. So just saying, it doesn't end well for some of these Barrymores. So in the last round, in round 4, Baze scored 3 points. Jason Bermas scored 5 points. After 4 rounds, Bazed Lit Analyzer has 69. Jason Bermas has 70. Like 3 discount jihadists recruited and trained by the FBI to blow up whatever, Jason, Bazed, and myself are going to massage a cow's prostate until we have enough manure to level a tax office, or enough to make a fictional character say, "Manure? I hate manure." Question is, can we work out when and how people died? So here we go. Let's play our last picture round. What a way to die. In this last picture round, our contestants will see a selection of famous AI-generated people. All they have to do is guess the odd one out. Each of the people died in a certain way. All our contestants need to do is spot which one was the odd one out of the three. You both get to have a guess. So you can guess, first of all, it would be Jason to guess on the first one, and then we'll alternate. Here you go. This is, can you guess? Can anybody guess who any of these are?
Yeah, I can give you the odd man out because I'm not sure who it is, because you got John Denver and Kobe Bryant as the people that aren't odd. And the other gentleman is the odd man out because I don't believe he died in a plane crash while the other two did.
Okay, so who died in a plane crash?
Well, Kobe died in a helicopter crash.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
maybe I'm wrong.
well, it was Jason to go first, and he was wrong. So I'm going to go across the Bazed Lit Analyzer now and say, hey, who do you think the odds one out here? Because it is, I can tell you, John Denver, Kobe Bryant, and Otis Redding.
Okay, well, the odd one out is John Denver because Kobe died in the helicopter crash, and did Otis Redding also die in a helicopter crash? I don't know how John Denver died. I thought he died of old age.
So what are you going to go with?
I guess the odd one out is John Denver.
No, the odd one out is Kobe Bryant because the other two died in plane crashes where Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, I'm afraid. Okay, the next one, it will be Bazed to start off. Okay, so here we go. This is the next one. We got, can you guess who these three are here, Bazed? Just before.
Well, there's Jeff Stein McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know who the other two guys are. George Costanza. And no, I don't. Who are those other two?
Do you know? Do you know, Jace?
Man, I'm looking at the other two guys, and I can't pin him as AI as well. I'd say Epstein's a decent representation of himself, so maybe I'm going to know
the
who
other ones are extremely decent. I'll tell you who they are. It's Jeffrey Epstein, of course, Al Capone, which is quite a good representation of Al Capone, and Fred West, the famous British serial killer who murdered women for his wife Rose and buried under the patio because that's what Rose wanted. Rose wanted me to bury him under the patio. I'm not going to say no to Rose because otherwise Rose will take me down. And you don't want Rose to take me down because otherwise I'll be in trouble. So I had to do what I had to do and I had to murder them. Now, I did touch them beforehand, but we won't talk about that. That was what he sounded like anyway.
So the odd one out is Capone, right? Because Capone died of syphilis.
Yes, quite right. The odd one out is Al Capone because Jeffrey Epstein and Fred West both died of hanging in prison. Whoever did the hanging will not question that. But Al Capone actually was released from prison after about 7 years for good behavior and died of syphilis, relatively unknown. Too true. Okay, the next one starts off with Jason. Here we go. This is a relatively hard one. Can you guess who it is before we actually? We've
got Saddam, obviously. Then we have Che Guevara, or Cuerva. I think it's Che. And then who is in the middle there?
I'll tell you who's in the middle. It's because it's not very good representation, but you probably wouldn't get it anyway. It's Ruth Ellis, the last person to be put to death in the UK for the murder of her husband. Now, Baze, be careful. You don't want to give him the clues of anything.
The last person to be put to death. Well, all these guys were executed then. I don't believe, man, I want to say there was a firing squad for Che, and he wasn't hung. Saddam was hung. Maybe she's the last one to be the firing squad. I'm going to have to guess with that. And then I'm going to go, then that would make Saddam the odd man out.
I'm going to go across to Bazed.
Yeah, the odd man out is Che Guevara because he was shot.
Yes.
And the other two have to have been hanged.
Yeah. Ruth Ellis was the last woman to be hanged in the UK, and Saddam Hussein was the last.
I went the other way. I didn't know her one bit, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I know. It's fair enough, but you get a good steal point there. But right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, this is hard though. This is hard. I have to say.
Hanged is for people. Hung is for objects. People watching.
Oh
this.
yeah, it's true. Hanged. They weren't all well hung. Well, one of them at least was. Okay, here you go. Now, okay, there's 3 people here, but AI has made an extra one. So this is Jason. Is it Jason to start off or Baze?
No, I got to start the
It's got to be
last
me.
It's too bad because I know this one.
Yeah, it's got to be me.
Okay,
Well,
so who we got here?
That's Chester Bennington from Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And then you've got Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, and then
Look at those
Kurt
fingers.
Cobain from Nirvana. And the odd
Everybody.
one out has to be Kurt Cobain because he shot himself, and the other 2 hanged themselves.
Ah, good. It's a good. Wow,
And look at that finger on Cobain and the guitar.
Yeah,
Amazing.
A little baby devil finger coming out. You gotta
Okay.
love AI.
Who does the hand on the far right belong to?
Man,
Ugh. Courtney Love.
No. I'm gonna give you 2 points, so Baze, for getting it straight away as well. Bart Simpson. That's what my producer says. It's probably Bart Simpson. Okay, right. And on the next one, so you are right. He did get shotgun headed. I don't know how you say it. Okay, the next one. Here we go. We got 2 left. This one's a pretty. This picture is.
I mean, I know who the crocodile hunter is. Steve Irwin.
Okay, so you got Steve Irwin, Kirsty McCall, and Captain Scott.
Captain, I see you Brits, man. We only got the Australian on TV. We all know that he got killed in the line of duty with a Stingray. I would assume that these people are also dead.
Yeah, they're all dead.
They are. They also have some kind of an animal.
Wait a
thing.
minute. I think it's Baze to go first in this round.
No, you
No,
got
that was
one
that's
last one.
that's
Okay,
Bermas.
okay.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. You got the easy one.
Come on, crap. Go on.
Because I don't know this one.
This is a tough one, man. Seeing I don't know.
Call Captain Scott. Now, Captain Scott did sail around the place. I will say that. He was the first guy to go to the North Pole.
Man, I have. Man, I mean, I might as well give it a guess. No, I don't know if I want to even give it a guess because I don't want to give Baze the chance to get it by guessing the other 1 out of 2.
Oh no! Well, I can tell you that Kirsty McCall in this picture does not look anything like Kirsty McCall does in real life.
I wouldn't know who that is.
Who is she?
She. Well, you know the song. When you first took my hand on that cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me.
What the hell are you talking about? Let's drop Nick Murphy's bit Vedmore. I don't know it.
That's the poem,
I don't know
my friend.
that.
I don't know that
Fairy
one.
Tale of
Sorry.
New York. You don't know Fairy Tale of New York, one of the most famous. You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap, lousy faggot. Happy Christmas, you all stuff. I got it's our last. You don't know that.
Nah,
I
wrong
know
with
Fairy
you?
Tale in New York. Fucking. What's the name? What's that guy's name with the teeth?
Yeah,
Fairy
from the
Tale in
Poe.
New York.
Shane
Yeah,
McGowan
yeah.
and
That's it,
Kirsty
yeah.
McCall. And she also
Oh.
did "Thank You for the Days, those endless days, those wonderful
Oh.
days you gave me." You don't
I'm
know
open
that song?
to it.
Got to number
No.
1.
Mm.
I listen. I'm gonna pull a move that maybe has never been done here, but I'm gonna make
You
it.
can get it out
Baze.
right on.
I'm going to Baze. Let him have a 1 out of 3 shot because I don't want to give him a 1 out of 2, so he just
Okay,
pulls the
go
hit
on.
automatically.
Go on. Risk the biscuits. That's what I always say.
I'm gonna say Steve Irwin's the odd man out. I mean,
Okay, I
Down
can
there.
tell you. I'm going to put you out of your misery at this point on this one.
yeah.
Kirsty McCall actually got chopped to death by a speedboat motor in a horrific accident in the water that was very well publicized all around the place. It was lots of people know that. But I'm pretty positive the chat will be filled with
R.I.P.
people knowing that. She died in the water. So did Steve Irwin. But Scott, the last thing is he's going to go out to get something to eat or something in the North Pole and was never seen again. So,
But-
he froze to death.
See, that doesn't count because they're all water. You know?
Kind
Oh,
of.
wait. No,
Inside the
come
water,
on.
not
We're
on
talking about states of water, though. Okay.
I mean,
okay.
Steve Irwin's death is pretty specific. That's pretty
You've
awesome.
got to be careful, or you're going to have a point taken away from you. Okay, one last one. This one might even be the hardest. Look at them with the fire outside the window. I'm not even going to make you get who this is. This is Glenn Miller, the band leader, Patsy Cline, and Falco, the Austrian musician who did Rock Me Amadeus, amongst
Damn, I
other
didn't know he was
musicians.
dead.
What, you didn't know the commissar himself was dead?
I didn't know Falco was dead. I love Rock Me Amadeus.
Yeah, there's awesome. Honestly, the Genie. He wrote a bunch of songs called Genie, and they were about a real life murder of a woman, and they were banned in loads of countries. He was a very naughty boy. Anyway, go on.
It's me?
Bazed. Yeah, it is Bazed, isn't it? Yeah.
Shit, I don't know. I think Falco is the odd man out here. I think
Okay,
Glenn Miller
correct.
and-
You get it on the
yeah.
first time, so you get 2 points. Do you know how he died? I think you don't know how he died.
No, I don't know.
Do any-
No.
Glenn Miller and Patsy Cline died in plane crashes. Falco drove out in front of a truck, and no one knows if it was suicide or not.
Oh.
He died. It was probably in the 90s, I think, about 94, 95, 96, maybe
That's
96,
terrible.
97. Yeah, it's terrible. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time. Well, musicians, crazy men. What can you do? What can you do? Sometimes people do that. Okay, in that round, Bazed Lit Analyzer got 4 points, and Jason Bermas got no points. That's it. That's awful. I know. Well, you don't even know who Kirsty McCall is. I mean, New York, the fairy tale of New York, and
You know
lived in
Kirstie
New York.
Alley.
Yeah, you know Kirstie Alley.
Yeah.
Jason, many of the people from the last round were considered as suicides when they may have actually been murdered. So tell me, my friend, if the nefarious manipulators of society were to suicide me, how do you think they do it?
I don't know, but I know that one of the favorite ways to get rid of people with ultimate plausible deniability are car accidents and heart attacks. They've actually been portrayed in a number of films. And when you talk about modern day suicides that have been questioned, you just had both Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell up there, TRUTHBOMB. They had actually been commissioned to do music on a documentary series about underage trafficking of children sexually. And I had that actually confirmed to me by Gabe Hoffman, who was involved in the, the documentary film An Open Secret, which I encourage people to check out. Tried to get Gabe to come on and kind of further talk about it. He said that's all he knew and all he wanted to talk about.
No, there you go. You get extra point for that to level it up. 72-72. That's good. Throw in a TRUTHBOMB point. Why not? My producer says he thinks they'll feed me to the puppies in the devilish round. That's probably true. Bazed, strangle, wank, or hanging shotgun chest.
Dude,
Which
hold
one do
on,
you
man.
think is the way to go?
I'm going to quote the Naked Gun. I think it would be a parachute not opening or getting caught in the gears of a combine. That's the way you want to go. And the truth bomb is that Orenthal James Simpson was in that very film, and they're re-releasing it this summer. How about that?
Not re-releasing. They remade it.
Rebooting it. Yeah.
Rebooting it with Liam Neeson. And I would say this, if we're going Naked Gun style, not just Police Squad, that's like the first adult comedy I got to see in the theaters. And as a kid, I was so excited that the first boob joke was then followed up by my favorite musical artist at the time, Weird Al Yankovic.
Everywhere I look, something reminds me of her. Oh, hey, Truth Bomb with that movie. It does include an MK Ultra Monarch programmed assassin.
And that Truth Bomb, that assassin is a man named Reggie Jackson, who is in the Baseball Hall of Fame and played coast-to-coast baseball, first with the Oakland Athletics, then with the New York Yankees, all the way back to the California Angels.
Truth Bomb, it does include Priscilla Presley, Right? Nice beaver. Thank you. I just had it stuffed.
I'm gonna give you each 2 points. I'm gonna give you each 2 points. So fair enough. That was good. Just stop truth bombing me. I feel
It also has a Shakespeare reference in the movie, by the way.
stop.
Remember that?
No, I joking.
Okay.
I joking.
All
Don't
right.
stop. Never stop truth
Truth-bombing
me.
also goes to your side of the pond and has a parody of the Queen herself at the baseball game, who is the target of that MK Ultra assassin.
Enrico Palazzo. It's Enrico Palazzo.
Right. Okay. Here we go. Come on. We got to go on to the next round. We've almost come to the end of the show, and everything could change in a quick fire round with the final truth bomb. So during the break, I video called the Dalai Lama and watched him suck the tongues of 1,000 children, and only 2 of them vomited. So Jason will be the one to go first in this round. Jason Bermas, you have 90 seconds to answer as many questions as possible. No truth bombs in this round. If you don't know the answer, just say pass as quickly as possible. The round is over when you hear this sound.
Circuit penetrates the cabinets.
Are you ready to rumble?
Let's rock.
Who popularized the theory that world leaders are reptilian aliens?
David Icke.
Correct. What theory denies the historical reality of the Nazi genocide?
Holocaust denial.
Correct. What unethical study on black men fueled government distrust?
Tuskegee experiment.
Correct. What conspiracy is uncovered in the movie Spotlight?
Pass.
Clergy abuse. What industry is implicated in the movie Syriana's conspiracy?
Syriana was about lying about weapons of mass destruction.
False. Oil industry. What airport is tied to theories of secret underground base?
Denver International.
Correct. What program is accused of weather control?
HARP.
Correct. What 1997 royal death sparked assassination theories?
Repeat that.
What 1997 royal death sparked assassination theories?
Princess Diana.
Correct. What Mossad operation assassinated Iranian nuclear scientists in the 2010s?
Pass.
Operation Olympic Games. What gangster led the Sinaloa cartel after El Chapo's arrest?
Circuit penetrates the cabinets.
You can still answer. You know it?
No.
Ismail Zambada. Oh, you did very well. You may have threatened the Queen's place at the top. And with Rotting Jewels currently at the top, we'll see. Bazed Lit Analyzer, my friend, you have 90 seconds to answer as many questions as possible. The time is up when you hear this sound.
Circuit penetrates the cabinets.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. What theory claims a staged alien invasion to control humanity?
Pass.
Bluebeam. Which occult group led by Marshall Applewhite ended in 1997 mass suicide?
Heaven's Gate.
Correct. What 1991 Oliver Stone film explores JFK's assassination?
JFK.
Yeah. What 1997 film features Mel Gibson as a paranoid taxi driver?
Conspiracy theory.
Yep. Which serial killer was called the Red Spider in Poland?
Pass.
Can pass. Errol Cott. What technology sparks a conspiracy in war games?
ARPANET, DARPA.
A military AI. What theory in international relations emphasizes norms, beliefs, and shared understandings?
I don't know. Pass.
Constructivism. Which war's end led to the liquidation of colonialism on a large scale?
World War I.
World War II. What year was the academic chair of international politics established?
I don't know. Pass. Terrible.
1925. Who wrote the influential book Politics Among Nations, Shaping Realists Through the International Relations?
Fuck. Henry Quigley.
Morgenthau. What 2006 film?
that we penetrate the cabinets.
Yeah.
I
It's
started,
terrible.
so I'll finish.
Damn.
What 2006 film explores a dystopian government's authoritarian control?
2006. I don't know. Elysium. I don't know. What is it?
V for Vendetta.
Oh my God! Come on. That's
Oh,
that was 2005. It's 2005.
Well, I'm afraid you're gonna have to take this up with AI. I don't. Think
Yeah, that's
they
2005. Come on.
It'll
All right.
probably burn you, to be honest, in the face hole. I can tell you now that in that round, in the last round, in the quick fire round, Jason scored 6. That's the highest scoring quick fire since we began Truth Bomb. That's the quickest that we've seen. And Bazed Lit Analyzer got 3 points there. That leaves just coming up to the final Truth Bomb.
Okay.
After 6 rounds, Bazed Lit Analyzer, I love this. Bazed Lit Analyzer has 77 points. Jason Bermas has 80 points. The final Truth Bomb, by the way, is worth 3 points. So if it goes across to Bazed and you get it yourself, you'll be the last one to go. You'll be allowed to think about what you want to say to try and claw this back. Then it'll go to a quick fire. Whoever comes in first and answers the right question on the questions will win the round. So
do we say Truth Bomb on this one?
No. Wait. I'm going to go across to each of you. So first of all, Bazed, you're going to go away and think about a really good final Truth Bomb about absolutely anything. Something which you think could blow people's minds, something which will open up their horizons, their perspectives, something that you think is special and worth people hearing. You go away and think about that. I'm going to ask Jason Bermas, as the person who's in the lead, for your final Truth Bomb.
So if we were to talk about something that is not largely reported, because we had shadows of Jeffrey Epstein, but we only hinted at Jeffrey Epstein, it should be noted that Jeffrey Epstein, more than likely, it's not the reason that he was a high-level pedophile, essentially incorporating a network with blackmail and associations with these underage girls that would become, overage. That's part of it. But the big thing is that Jeffrey Epstein was an arms dealer. Today, we've talked about things such as the Iran-Contra affair. It is so important. And when you look at something like that, when I talked about 9/11, I said international intelligence operation and named the different groups. When you look at Iran-Contra, people do not realize that Israel, with Mark Rich and others, was integral in actually getting the weapons from Czechoslovakia and other areas of Eastern Europe and then sending those weapons down into South America and the Sandinistas. And then the money would be funneled up into U.S. intelligence agencies, and they would be paid on the back end. Jeffrey Epstein himself, one of the high-level associations that we know about, as you know, is Prince Andrew. Guess what? Prince Andrew was their arms dealer in the United Kingdom. And then on top of that, one of the things that, again, was downplayed is when you had the raid on his New York home, they found a fake identity where he had a Saudi Arabian name and address and passport. He also bragged to comedian Louis Black at a dinner party that he was having discussions about weapon systems with the Israeli defense minister. And this is during the 90s. I could go to several other examples, but I would just say this. When you are in the arena of high-level blackmail, it is also about the billions of dollars and geopolitical power that backdoor arms trading and warfare provides.
That is an amazing Truth Bomb, I tell you. It's come up in the second Pottinger piece, of course, the arms dealing, and Epstein helped with the funding behind that, of course. And one of the Epstein's victim lawyer, Pottinger, was also central to doing that. And that's at the time we also admit sharing a office with Jeffrey Epstein while they were doing such things. If in actual fact, if you follow all of this information about these people, arms dealing tends to be one of the main things that they're doing, and it is often overlooked, so that people can just look at, people are very distracted by the sex compromise operations. They're very, well, exactly as you say, sexy, but they're not, they're not as well run and often frequent as the arms dealing. That's a good one. That's a good truth bomb. Here we go. You've had a little bit of time to think. Give me something.
Yeah, I would say probably most everybody knows this, but everybody associates Aleister Crowley, who always comes up with all the, in all these areas, as everybody always talks about how W's mom is the daughter of Al Crowley, which there could be possibly some truth with that. And people know about Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley's communication back and forth and founding the JPL. But most people forget that JPL Fuller, who wrote On Modern Warfare and was one of the tacticians who wrote the book on how the U.S. military runs and in terms of modern warfare, was also a devotee of Aleister Crowley. And this stuff comes up all the time now, especially in occult ways. When we talk about earlier on, you were talking about eye injections in the bottom area, which is of course an occult tactic. It's always the butt stuff. Excuse my French. And then of course anything having to do with the Middle East, especially Iraq and Iran, deal with occult references with forming a new Eon or an NWO, which of course tends to always tie back to Crowley and his magical workings and rituals.
Right. At this point, I'm just going to go across to my main man, just a bloke who asks questions, and say to him, hey fella, I need some help here because I have a hard time making these decisions. It is so hard to call, too hard to call. How did you feel you did, guys?
I thought my opponent was extremely impressive in all of his knowledge. And like I said, I didn't come here with any expectations. Quite shamefully on the stuff that I did get wrong regarding, enduring freedom and Flight 11. It's going to haunt me. But hey, you can't win them all. I'm a human being, and I had a great opponent.
Yeah.
Well, ditto. I mean, look, it's pretty hard to compete with. Again, I said this at the beginning, but it's pretty hard to compete with the guy that a lot of us learned everything about Big Nine and everything with it from Bermas. So he's the authority on all this stuff for years, for decades now. So of course he's the authority on this. It was great to be here with him. And I did shameful in the round 2 rounds ago with I did it like Morgenthau. So I don't know.
Well, I can tell you after listening to both of those that I'm going to leave this to go to the quick fire round. So I'm going to give the 3 points to Bazed just to bring it up 80-80. There's no doubt about it that I'm going to. Here we go. I'm going to choose. You just got to come in first. You don't have to say truth bomb. You just say the answer as quickly as you can. Okay, well, good tiebreaker. How many members does the UN Security Council have?
8.
No. Based?
12.
Oh, 15, I'm afraid. So neither of you got that. Would say you go to the thing, but I'm going down the list now, so this is just going to be how it happens. What theory in international relations was put forward by George Liska, focusing on maintaining stability? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. The answer was equilibrium. What industry's cover-up is central to the China syndrome?
Say the water industry?
No.
Energy?
Nuclear industry. We're getting down.
That was close. Energy was close.
Here we go. What 1976 film depicts a journalist uncovering a political conspiracy?
All the President's Men.
Done.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we went down the list, and the last one was a movie question, and Bazed Lit Analyzer whooped it up at the end. So you're going to get it 81 to 80. Very unexpected. Yeah. I thought Jason was going to take that. I thought halfway through, I thought it was going to be the high. You're both, you're actually second and third in the tables.
We didn't win? I thought we crushed it. I thought we beat the top. We didn't.
Rocking Jules was top. Dana Dudar, her specialist subject was the Process Church of the Final Judgment. She was amazing. She scored 84 in total. Did amazing on her picture rounds too. But 81 and 80, that's fine. Second and third place up there at the top. John Claycheck is next.
Nice.
You've got John Claycheck, and then there's a list of very good people with very good reputations. Very good reputations all the way down. So you should feel very proud of yourselves. Gentlemen, I'll ask you each. First, the loser, who I doesn't feel like the loser. Jason, how did you feel about that? Did you enjoy that? Yeah.
Fun times. Fun times.
Excellent. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can check me out at Jason Bermas, Bermas, just about everywhere. For the first time in 5 years, we're actually growing on YouTube. I'm not sure what sparked it, but we've been literally stuck in the mud at 70. I think we peaked at 73,000, gradually went down to about 70,000 over those 5 years, kicked and screamed for everything. And now all of a sudden in these last 3 months, have gained almost 2,000 subscribers. So we're going to try to march on, kick and scream all the way to 100,000 there. We're also on Rumble, on Rockfin. But again, follow me on X, and that's where you get a lot of stuff that I don't just talk about, but kind of like the raw stories that interest me.
Excellent. Congratulations, Bazed, our champion today, 81 points. Where can people find you, and did you have a good time?
First of all, I had a great time. Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that I'm on here with you, Johnny, and you, Bermas. This was a lot easier than Jamie's game, Stargate, the Stargate game, Star Game. That was like, that game killed me. Shouts out to Jamie Hanshaw Dyer out there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And you guys can find me at Bazed Lit Analyzer on YouTube, and doing literary analysis and movies all the time. So check me out, and come over there and subscribe.
Do it. I completely love it. I completely love both of your work. Is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, Truth Bomb. We're out. Hello. Thank you for watching that show. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate having your time and your attention just for a little bit. To make content like this, I need your help. I am constantly working hard to produce live shows, podcasts, truth bombs, and long-form investigative articles which expose a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. Continue doing that. I need your support. You can either support me via Patreon by becoming a patron, where you'll get shows like Truth Bomb early. You could support me by dropping me something or buy me a coffee, or on Ko-Fi. And I really do appreciate your support. Go to newspaste.com for more, and thank you again.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
Have you ever considered freedoms? Real freedoms? Freedoms in the opinions of others? Even freedoms in the opinions of yourself? What does it mean when a man claims victory for a victory that was not his own?
It is now official. You've seen the videotape. I got the screw job on the Tom Cruise AI Taco Bell question.
What does it mean when you think, Bermas, that you have said Tom Cruise before me, but very clearly I have?
Truth Bomb!
Truth Bomb!
This is a warning call to all who will listen. I win.